this on the screen?
Well, this is 348, where the cabins are.
Really? So I can walk that?
All right, we gotta go. Did you know the Bible would put
Well, good evening and welcome to the Federal Way City Council meeting for April 17th of 2018. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance as we have Boy Scout Troop 301 present the colors. Gentlemen.
Color guard attention. Color guard for march. Scout salute, or put your hand over your heart. Do not move this hand. Color guard halt. May the audience please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two. Color guard close to color. Color guard dismissed. The audience may be seated.
Thank you, troops. I had the honor and privilege to actually meet with the Boy Scouts of Troop 301 just about a few weeks ago. It was great to talk to them about history. And there was one of them, just when we got started, I've got this great picture of Abraham Lincoln back in my office. And just he turns the corner, sees the picture of Lincoln, and recites the Gettysburg Address cold. So I was pretty impressed. I was very impressed with all of those young men and had a great conversation with them. That's one of the great things I get to do as mayor, and we all do. We go out to the elementary schools and we go out and meet the members of the community. So thank you, Troop. You did a great job today. Barbara Bush, the former First Lady of the United States of America, passed away today. And I'm really sorry to have to tell you that. In her honor, as the wife of the 41st President of the United States, let's have a moment of silence. All right, thank you. Whatever your politics, she was one in a million and one of a kind. So it was a life well lived. We've got our police department swearing in ceremony, one of the great things we get to do. I'll introduce Chief of Police, Chief Wong.
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, members of the council. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and to our citizens the newest members of the Federal Way Police Department. The oath of office will be given tonight by Mayor Farrell. First is Officer Ricardo Cuellar. Officer Cuellar is an entry-level police officer, recently graduating from the Police Academy in February. Prior to embarking on his law enforcement career, Ricardo was a learning and development manager. Officer Cuellar is fluent in Spanish and is very involved with his church. He's been married to his wife, Cynthia, for 4 years. Next, we have Officer Eric Reyna. Officer Reyna is a 2-year lateral police officer from Warrensburg, Missouri. Before that, he worked for Xerox as a customer care representative. Officer Reyna studied major in health and physical education at Eastern New Mexico University. Eric enjoys playing baseball and had actually toured Australia on a traveling team. He has a 5-year-old son named Landon. Landon, hi. He's pretty excited tonight. Next, we have Officer Brian Mullet. Officer Mullet is a 7-year lateral police officer from Avon, Colorado. Brian was born and raised in Colorado, but wanted more opportunity and challenge that a small mountain agency couldn't provide. Officer Mullet is experienced as a field training officer and a crime scene tech. Brian has a 19-year-old daughter and is an avid bowler and a fisherman. Next, we have Officer Cody Robertson. Officer Robertson is a 5-year lateral police officer from Post Falls, Idaho. While at Post Falls, Cody was a K-9 officer, a member of the SWAT team, drug abuse recognition expert, and had taught at the Idaho Police Academy. Cody is a U.S. veteran serving a single tour in Iraq. Cody has been married to his wife, Kayla, for 9 years. And we have last Richard Graham. Officer Graham is a 2-year lateral police officer from Kauai PD in Hawaii. Rick has served 11 years in the U.S. Marines and was a captain in charge of aviation maintenance unit. He has a Bachelor's of Science degree from Embroy-Riddle Aeronautical University with a minor in air traffic control. Rick grew up on the East Coast, and that's evident when he speaks, and he's currently single and enjoys scuba diving and golfing. Please join me in welcoming the newest members of the Federal Way Police Department. Gentlemen, if you could come forward.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name.
I, Ricardo Cuellar,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am a citizen of the United States
that I am a citizen of the United States
and the state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and will, to the best of my judgment,
and will to the best of my judgment,
skill, and ability,
skill, and ability,
truthfully, faithfully,
truthfully, faithfully,
diligently, and impartially,
diligently, and impartially,
perform the duties of police officer
perform the duties of police officer
in and for the city of Federal Way,
in and for the city of Federal Way,
County of King,
County of King,
State of Washington,
state of Washington,
as such duties are prescribed by law,
as such duties are prescribed by law.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Well, it sure is great to see this kind of turnout. We love to see this many people here. A lot of stuff happening in our great community. Okay, next, we've got the Federal Way Girl Scout Troop, 1668, 1688. See, I got to put on the glasses. 41. My gosh. Okay, hold on. Let's start over.
New glasses, Mr. Mayor.
Good grief. I need a new prescription.
41688.
41688, what she said. Federal Way Girl Scout Troop, come on down. This is for the Lending Libraries Project. Parks and Facilities Manager Jason Gerwin.
Thank you, Mayor Farrell and City Council. I have the honor of working with these fine young ladies and their two scout leaders, Catherine Banks and Lisa McCann. Some of the most well-prepared and diligent, mindful young ladies we've worked for. I have to say, one of the best scout groups ever. And they approached us trying to earn the Silver Award, and they wanted to produce little libraries to put in our parks to help literacy and get more books out into the community. And so over several weeks, they got donations, got the supplies, built them, and then we took the time to install them. These have been way more successful than I ever thought possible. When I first met with them, I met at one of their houses, and they had a pool table that was covered with books. The underneath was full with books. And a couple weeks ago, they brought them all to us. We got the library stocked, and we've almost exhausted those books. But if you don't know what a little library is, it's just a little lending library that you can come, leave a book, and take a book out in the community. And so currently, we have them at Town Square Park, Steel Lake Park, Celebration Park. There will be one going in at Sahalee and one going in at Dash Point Highlands. And so the amount of work, they look truly amazing. They're really neat out there in the community and getting actively used. And so for their hard work and efforts, we want to recognize them tonight. So.
That's good. Thank you very much. So, my family goes to Town Square Park all the time, and so my little guy was going around the park with a scooter, and he went around one time, and all of a sudden I had remember hearing something about these, and all of a sudden there I see at Town Square Park our new lending library, and it just looked absolutely beautiful and fun, and it was already filled with books, and so it is really great to see. And I've got a bunch of certificates. Why don't I read each one of them, and as I read them, we can have you, come out. Jason, does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. I had one other thing, just in addition to the certificate of appreciation, they are working on their silver award. They're submitting that paperwork, but I wanted to give each of them, it's a silver coin that says high five and awesome job, because they've made a wonderful addition to our parks.
Oh, that's nice. Please do that, yeah.
And we also wanted to give Jason and his team some cookies.
All right.
Let's do that now before I get down there.
We're going to give that to you.
Thank you,
Jason, thank you.
There we go. Why don't I, have you given them the?
No, I was just, as you called them, I would hand it.
That's the plan. All right, let's do that. Okay, Hallie Banks. Hannah Banks. Alyssa Cleveland. Emily Haight. I'll give it to the leaders. Abby Marshall. Emma McCann. Sky Moser. Mia Rapp. Michaela Reedy. Lexi Schwartz. Catherine Banks is the troop leader. And Lisa McCann, troop co-leader. So I'm going to come down and give all the Girl Scouts their certificates. Council, we're going to get a big picture.
She just joined us. Oh, okay. She didn't do the project, but she's still part of our troop. That's Malia.
Malia, come on down.
Do you want council to come on down?
Yeah, what do you think? Should we have you guys?
We do a group picture.
Yeah, come on down. Come on down.
Girl Scouts want
I think I've got these in order.
Think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we can take your cookies and. Ooh.
Girl Scout cookies.
I would like to recognize Carol and Anthony. They're standing in the back. They're our two parks maintenance workers that have worked with the Girl Scouts to get them installed. You're so free to go.
You girls gonna like get down low. That's a fun with Girl Scout. Yeah, me too, back in the day. All right. I can call. Well, where's yours? Emma can kneel. All right, look up. Look up. You're fine.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Oh, goodness.
So now when you see the lending libraries around town, or when I see Town Square Park, now I'll know the folks behind it. So thank you so much. It's such a fun thing to see in the neighborhoods when you're walking through a neighborhood and you see a little lending library. They're all over town. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Everybody ready? All right. Certificates of appointment to North Lake Management District Advisory Committee. Councilmember Kopang.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to invite Mary McClellan Aaronin, Lois Kuchka, and Lawrence Zimninski to join me at the podium. All of them, and Terry Thomas also, while he will not be here tonight, has also been reappointed to the North Lake Management District.
I'm Lois, and Larry is over here, and I don't know where Mary is. Okay, thank you.
That's all right. Thank you. Do you guys want to say anything?
No, we're fine. I don't want to say anything.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Next, item D, and congratulations to those individuals. Certificate appointment to Parks and Recreation Committee. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to invite Dawn Coggins to come forward to accept her certificate of appointment to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Thank you.
All right. Now, well, we've got City Attorney Ryan Call regarding the results of the Independent Salary Commission report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor said, I'm here to report out on the results of the Independent Salary Commission. Before I do that, I wanted to explain a little bit about the purpose and how it functions. First, the authority of the commission is based in state law. It allows cities to set up independent salary commissions to set the salaries of elected officials. The obvious purpose here being so that elected officials don't have to set their own salaries, which obviously could be interpreted as a conflict of interest. The city of Federal Way has implemented this state statute in our local code, Chapter 2.80. The composition of the Independent Salary Commission is first started by the city clerk advertising for the positions. The commissioners are then selected and appointed by the mayor with approval by council. Some of the criteria, the commissioners may not serve for more than 2 terms. We do 4-year terms here, so commissioners can serve for a total of 8 years. Commissioners must reside in Federal Way. No city officer, official, or employee of the city or any of their immediate family members may serve on the commission. It has to be independent, and there can be no conflicts of interest. Actions taken by the commission supersede any actions taken by council related to budgeting or fixing of salaries. So once the commission decides on a salary, their word is final. Any action taken requires a vote of 3 commissioners. So the process that they used, and this is largely rules that they came up with themselves, and also statute. They meet once a year, or once every other year, without direction from elected officials. It's on a set schedule. They have an open public meeting that's properly noticed by the city clerk and is open to anyone. City staff provides research and clerical support. So in this case, I attended as an attorney advisor, and the human resources officer and the deputy city clerk attended. At the beginning of the meeting, the commission reviews what they call their guiding principles, which they establish to reinforce the criteria that they're going to use to evaluate both council and the mayor's salaries. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about what those guiding principles are shortly. The commission reviews the salary and benefits of the elected officials of similarly situated elected officials at other cities, comparable to Federal Way. So that's important. That's kind of the process they use. They compare council and the mayor's salaries to similar positions in other cities of similar population. In addition to that, the commission is presented with city budget documents, and they consult with staff regarding the financial status of the city. We had some discussion about the current status of the city given the recent utility tax pass and the budget shortfall that we're trying to overcome, and that was discussed. The commission then debates on what an appropriate salary would be, and they vote on appropriate adjustments. After all of that, they sign the findings, and the city clerk publishes those findings in the paper twice. So after scheduling, I guess after it's published 2 times, then the salaries become effective. So the guiding principles are those 3 at the top. The first is to consider total compensation as salary and benefits, so they don't look at just take-home salary, they also look at the benefits that each position has. They are to be fair to the mayor and council, and they're also to be accountable to taxpayers. How they accomplish that is that under fairness, the guiding principle there is that salary and benefits for elected officials should not be significantly less than other officials get at similarly sized cities, and that salaries should be reviewed every 2 years and adjusted as necessary. On accountability, it's kind of the opposite. Elected officials should not be overpaid or paid significantly more than other officials in other cities. They should also take into account poor economic conditions of the city, such as if there's salary freezes or layoffs, they need to keep that in mind. So the basic approach, as I stated before, is that they compare recent data from comparable cities and positions, and then decide what an appropriate increase would be. The comparable cities are based on population, and they must be in the state of Washington. And the mayor position must be from a similar type of government. So it needs to be a strong mayor or an elected full-time mayor and council form of government, because elected full-time mayors, obviously, it's a full-time job. They work much more than a council appointed mayor in a city manager council form of government. So here are the comparables that were used for their discussion. They're all within plus or minus 40,000 people of the city of Federal Way. We're there at the bottom. Technically, Bellevue fits in this list as well, and the commission elected to remove Bellevue from the list because the compensation was significantly higher, and it was kind of throwing off the mean that they were considering, and they didn't think that Bellevue was actually a true comparable to Federal Way because Bellevue obviously has more revenue than the city of Federal Way. So these are the comparables for council. You see that Federal Way council members were making $1,185 a month with a VIBA health insurance benefit there for $475 for a total of $1,660. That put them at slightly below the mean of the group, but not dramatically out of sync with our comparable cities. The mayor's salary was a little different. The mayor was dramatically below all the other cities. We see here that the mayor's salary was $9,924 with benefits, which are the same benefits that all the other full-time city employees receive, plus the use of a city vehicle, for a total of $12,710 per month for monthly compensation, which puts the mayor below the lowest paid mayor besides Federal Way, which was Redmond, with a city of 62,000 people. So looking at that, the Salary Commission decided to make these moves. They decided to increase council's salary by 1%. And how they were doing that was they were looking at the salary only, not the benefits were going to stay the same. They were just going to increase the salary. So that is not a dramatic increase, but it does increase the total take-home monthly to $1,196.36. And then they authorized another increase of 1% on January 1, 2019, which will increase council's monthly take-home to $1,208 plus the HRA VIBA plan contribution. So that puts council slightly below the mean, the average of the group. The mayor adjustment was more. The overall goal that they expressed was to try to match the lowest paid mayor in the group. And that will be accomplished with the second increase, January 1, 2019. So the first increase is 7.5% effective immediately, which increases the mayor's salary for the 2018 year to $10,668. And then on January 1, they authorized another 7.5% increase to bring it to $11,468 per month. The benefits would not change. So that brings the mayor to basically after the second raise, he'll be compensated roughly similar to Redmond, at least at the time of these numbers. I'm sure Redmond's salary commission will also be increasing the mayor's salary, but it brings him a little more to a reasonable range of the comparables because he was considerably below the market. So that is my presentation. Are there any questions?
Council, any questions? Deputy Mayor Honda?
Thank you. And thank you for the report. Is it possible if a council member wanted to postpone? I realize from reading MRSC's report on salaries and salary commissions that it may be illegal to accept this. But could we postpone taking it if we so chose until the city's in a better financial position?
So the council has delegated this authority to the salary commission, and it's self-affecting. So no further action from council is needed or authorized. If an individual council member wanted to contribute the difference back to the city, hypothetically that's possible, but there's a disagreement, as you stated, as to whether or not that's lawful. The idea here is to remove this decision from the elected officials.
I understand that.
So there's an honest disagreement on whether or not that's legal.
Okay. I wanted to ask because I've been doing some research on it, so. Thank you.
Council, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay. Sound Transit Tacoma Dome link extension and briefing. I'll ask the incoming, or soon-to-be, actually, we have our Public Works Director in Marwan Saloom now, but the Public Works Director designee, E.J. Walsh, will be providing an update in regard to the, what's referred to as the TDLE. And are you going to talk about the event that happened yesterday as well?
I can. It's actually not in the slideshow, but sure.
Why don't I start with that, and then I'll kick it over to you. So yesterday at the Tacoma Dome, myself, Peter Rogoff with the CEO of Sound Transit, Victoria Woodards, the mayor of Tacoma, and the mayor of Fife, and a representative of one of the tribes, was present for a press conference availability with really the launch of the Tacoma Dome Link Extension. And when we say the Tacoma Dome Link Extension, we really mean everything from 320th south down to the Tacoma Dome. And so we had the Federal Way Link Extension, which essentially started where Highline College is, all the way to the city of Federal Way. That'll be completed in 2024. The TDLE will be completed, I don't mean to be taking your presentation, but the TDLE will be completed in 2030. So we were at the Tacoma Dome yesterday for a press briefing and for essentially a press conference where there's going to be a launch of the public phase of that. And I myself and Tacoma Mayor Victoria Woodards are the co-chairs of the TDLE and of at least the elected official aspect of that. And this mirrors what occurred with the Federal Way Link Extension, in which many of the elected officials for those cities, Federal Way, Des Moines, Kent, Burien, SeaTac, had elected representatives, and we essentially helped give a recommendation to a unanimous recommendation to Sound Transit, which altered the alignment. So this is a very, very important public input process that's beginning. That started yesterday. And then I believe tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Todd Beamer High School, there's going to be a public hearing on this in regard to the scoping and essentially the alignment as it gets back on the freeway from downtown. With that, EJ, go. And EJ has been coming with me to these as I've been chairing these meetings that we've had so far. So, EJ.
So good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, and audience. I see it's very full, and Stephanie has a lot of pink sheets, so I'll keep this short. As the mayor said, I'm here tonight to touch base on the Tacoma Dome Link Extension and the early scoping process. So this is a process initiated by Sound Transit, not the city, but initiated by Sound Transit, related to gathering informal feedback for this project. So the overall background, just to make sure we're all starting on the same page, is that Sound Transit completed a high-capacity transit corridor study. So this is kind of like a preliminary feasibility look at a very high level, think Sharpie on a map level, in 2014. With that, this project was put on the ballot as part of the ST3 ballot measure that was passed by the voters in 2016. So the phase that Sound Transit's in right now is starting the environmental phase of this project with the alternatives development. So the ballot measure did contain a targeted opening date of 2030 for this segment. So the overall schedule for this is 2014 was that study that I just mentioned. 2016, the ballot measure passed. Where we are right now is this 2017 to 2019 alternatives development. And that time period is really focused on gathering input from cities, from the community, from businesses, from interested parties, from advocacy groups on what they want to see as part of this project. And that includes everything from station locations to alignment to how people get to the stations, et cetera. So the next step will be the environmental review and preliminary design. For those of you that were familiar with the Federal Way Link Extension, this is where that project started. So they skipped this phase that we are in right now. So 2022 to 2025 will be the engineering design. This is the time period that we won't really see a whole lot of Sound Transit. They'll be doing, the behind the scenes actually designing of the project with all the input. 2025 is where we'll see the start of construction, and 2030 is the start of service. So this is the map that was included as part of the ST3 ballot measure. It's what Sound Transit is considering the representative project. It does start, as the mayor indicated, at the end of the Federal Way Link Extension project that I think we're all familiar with, which is right on the north side of 320th. So at the soon-to-be transit center, so the current transit center gets modified as part of the Federal Way Link Extension project into a new multimodal transit center, so light rail coming into it. So that's where this project takes off. There is a South Federal Way Station, which is in general in the area of South 352nd Street and Enchanted Parkway. This is one of the things that Sound Transit's looking for feedback from, is thoughts on this. The next station south is in the city of Fife, so it's at 54th Avenue East and Pacific Highway. Next is a station at Portland Avenue East and I-5. And then the final station is Freight House Square. The project is being set up so it can be continued to be expanded further south in the future, but this is the end of this project today. So this will be the point that the train would have a tail track and actually turn around and start that process north. The other key part of this project is the Operations and Maintenance Facility, or OMF for short. This does not have a designated location as of yet. The ballot measure considered anything south of the city of Seattle limits. So the construction of this is part of this project, but the location is anywhere from essentially SeaTac down through Tacoma. There's not an identified location. So what that is it's a plus or minus 30-acre tract, similar to the Operation and Maintenance Facility in downtown Seattle that Sound Transit already operates. There's one in Bellevue that is under construction currently, and then there's a fourth one associated with the Linwood Link extension. So this is the other large item associated with this project. But like I said, there's no location identified. So the key project points is that the map that I just talked about, it's a starting point, and that's really what I want everyone to keep in mind. It's not set in stone. I think from a public perspective, we are interested in hearing the feedback of what the community looks for, and then once we have that, the council will have a chance to take a position similar to the Federal Way Link extension on preferred alignments and have the opportunity to endorse one if you so choose in that 2019 to 2020 timeframe that we talked about earlier. So the point of the process right now is to basically throw darts at the wall and put everything down on paper for people to consider. And that's that alternative alignments, station locations, and associated improvements. So there's not a predetermined project at this point. The whole process of what's going on right now is collecting data. So Sound Transit's working to build early project consensus with all the partners. We are certainly one of them, as are all the other cities, the tribe, FHWA, FHA, the Army Corps, and the Coast Guard are the key partners. And then, like I mentioned, the Operation and Maintenance Facility is part of this project. The goals of early scoping, so it's a 30-day comment period. With the way the dates fell, it opened after the council meetings last month, and it closes May 3rd. We'll get to that in a second. But the whole goal of the early scoping is to start the conversation about the project prior to the formal start. So the formal start is what we saw with Federal Way Link Extension, where there's an extensive involvement process with council and with the community to solicit formal impact, or formal input, sorry, not impact. We're not at that point yet. This is an informal process. And the goal, though, from Sound Transit's perspective, is to collect all of that information and to fatal flaw anything that there's outright disagreement from a community on, not necessarily a city government as much as a community outreach or a large-scale outreach by many. And also to, if there is a consensus across the board, to advance that. The ultimate goal is to streamline the environmental review process. So they're not starting at where they were with the Federal Way Link Extension project, where they're considering alternate modes of transportation. So is this effectively another sounder instead of a light rail? So that is their goal, is to streamline that. So as I mentioned, and you'll see it a couple more times, comments are due to Sound Transit by May 3rd, and that's as much here for everybody in the audience to see and solicit their input as well. So if you go to Sound Transit's website or you go to any of the open houses, you'll see what's called an early scoping document. And what that is, just again to make sure we're all on the same page, it's a collection of information prepared by Sound Transit used to solicit feedback. It is not an environmental impact statement document, which is the official documents that go through the federal process. It is an informal collection of information. It does include the representative project alignment that I had on the screen earlier. It includes purpose and need statements, and that gets back to that whole, it is an extension of the light rail. We're not going to say, okay, we're going to make the light rail jump on the sounder track, or we're going to convert everyone to a bus. So that's the project purpose and need statement. And it also provides instructions on how to provide feedback to Sound Transit. So as far as Sound Transit's outreach goes, they sent this postcard to everybody that is within a mile corridor of the solid green line that you see on this screen to provide this information. And I have it on the next slide so you can actually read it. But there are in-person open houses. So there's one going on right now in Tacoma that is, all three of these are the same, and all three of these are intended to be come-and-go open houses. There is no formal presentation. So they have boards around the room. They have roll plots. You can go look at anything, talk to Sound Transit staff, provide input, and then if you want to stay for 10 minutes or you want to stay for 2 hours, that's completely up to you. So there are three of them. The one I will point out is there is one tomorrow at Todd Beamer High School from 6 to 8. There's a third one in Fife. If you're not available on any of these 3 days and you do want to provide feedback, the same information, granted you're looking at it on a computer screen, not roll plots that are the size of this room, but it is online at the website. I think we also have a link to this on the city's website if you want to find it. So there's station area workshops, which are business community geared around the tentative stations that Sound Transit's also participating in. And then I showed you the direct mail that they sent out as well already. So the information from all of these events are incorporated as feedback from the May 3rd. So if you go to an event and you write a note on a sticky note and attach it to one of the roll plots, that is formal feedback in the context of this. You do not need to write a formal letter if you don't want to. I mean, you certainly are welcome to do that as well. So the next steps, as a city, it's to listen to the community and to gather feedback. That's the point that we're at right now. And to, as a community, to provide early input from both the city and the community. So provide the comments, again, by May 3rd. The next step from the city's perspective is to enter into a partnering agreement. This will be going to LUTC next month, and we'll be back to council, I believe, on the 15th of May. And this is, so the partnering agreement, just to kind of tee that up a little bit, is an agreement between the city and Sound Transit to work in good faith to continue to advance the environmental perspective. But like I said, that'll come before LUTC next month. So, and then once all of these comment periods close and Sound Transit has a chance to collect all the input, the formal EIS process, which is what everyone that was involved with the federal way link extension, that's where that process started, that'll start next. So the city input that we have been providing based on council's previous input for the federal way link extension, and will continue to provide, is to ensure that previous, current, and planned city and regional projects, so this includes the Triangle Project, it includes other regional projects, are not compromised by the proposed track alignment. You know, everyone's working together, and Sound Transit has been diligent about doing that. To ensure safe and convenient access to the proposed South 352nd Street station while not increasing traffic congestion and minimizing the loss of property tax revenue. It's a mouthful, but... and to provide coordination, education, sharing of information with local businesses, residents, and interest groups. To minimize and mitigate all environmental impacts, which they're required to do by city code, but that is, you know, some of the continued feedback that we have received from council, so we have been reiterating that. For the OMF facility, while responsive to Sound Transit's needs, not negatively impact the city's long-term visioning and comprehensive plan. A 30-acre parcel is a big chunk of land. You know, and this facility, it's needed for their operations. Where it goes needs to be closely coordinated with all of the cities that are involved in this conversation, including Federal Way. So this is directly out of the Federal Way Link Extension city comments, but to provide maximum regional mobility both for our residents and businesses to the surrounding area, as well as for people traveling throughout the greater Puget Sound area. And then technical comments related to the NEPA and city processes. And that is where we stand right now.
Councilmember Duclos.
I have a question. With all of this going on, and we're going to be having some of our businesses moved, either relocated somewhere in the city or out of the city. Is there any way that we're on a tight budget here, and we get some business money coming in to support us? What happens if our businesses get moved? We've got a car dealership. What's going to happen with them? That's a big thing that may or may not stay here. So what happens to the city? Does the city get anything in reimbursement from Sound Transit for dislocation of businesses from the city to someplace else?
So as far as dislocate or relocation of businesses, the short answer is no, there's not a tax increment that's part of the current system. What I will tell you is on May 15th, as part of that partnering agreement, Sound Transit staff will be here to make a presentation on the project and cover a lot more in detail than I did tonight. So in general, they follow the state laws that are the same as this conversation related, or the federal laws, sorry, not state laws, from the Federal Way Link Extension. So it's going to be the same answer that the city received.
So
related to
basically,
that
they can
project.
just get rid of the businesses or do something else?
Yeah, I mean,
And we have to take the financial impact.
Well, let me address this real quick. At the management team that we had when I was meeting with the directors on Monday, I directed Tim Johnson to, he and I are going to be meeting with Jet Chevrolet here in town, would have been the only major car.
Yeah, I just bought a car from there.
Right, exactly. They've been here for years and years.
Well, I want to keep the money here in Federal Way.
And it's a pivotal location in our community.
Yeah.
So we're going to be working with them to see how much of that property that's yet to be determined exactly. One of the things that we did in one of the preliminary meetings that we had in what's now in Fife, at what they used to call the International Trade Center, but now it's called the Fabulous Center, right there in the Port of Tacoma, is they laid out a long map, about 2/3 of the space that's in front of us. And we went, and then we were looking at buffers and how close to the freeway they're going to be. So one of the things that I'm sure that Jet Chevrolet and all of those businesses, it's going to go behind the Costco, presumably. The question is where. That's one possible alternative. Is it going to hug the freeway? How closely? What does that buffer look like? Are we going to be able to get in Washington State DOT right away? Those decisions are yet to be made, and how close does it mirror the freeway? If it gets to the point of we're going to be talking with Jet Chevrolet and many of those businesses, because there's going to be a station right there, probably right almost in between. One of the possible locations of a station is in between the Costco and the Home Depot. That's one possible location. And there's some other areas in that area. I have no idea yet. They don't know where these locations are going to be. But when we're talking to Jet Chevrolet, if the take is too great, they can use their compensation and relocate elsewhere. So it's incumbent upon us to try to work with Jet Chevrolet to find them another spot inside the city of Federal Way that they'll want to relocate with the money they get this from Sound Transit. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, but it may.
It just bothers me that we don't know, because there's a lot of industry, a lot of business down there. Costco is a big
Right.
one. We've got several big buildings down there that draw a lot of people, and a lot of money comes in from them to the city. If we lose that,
Well, I don't think they're, right, I have not seen a red line through the Costco. I've not seen that. But again, they're working on alignment, and we certainly are not going to let them come through with our city like a wrecking ball. That was why the working group of the Federal Way Link Extension worked so hard, because what was going to occur was it was essentially a fait accompli, or presumed the light rail would go through Pack Highway from 240th all the way through our downtown. Well, anybody who's been watching Federal Way for the past 15 years knows we've spent $80 million upgrading Pack Highway from 272nd to 356th. And it would have just churned all of that up and really divided our city in half. And that's why there was a unanimous recommendation from all those South Puget Sound leaders including myself, to get that alignment to hug the freeway. And so that's why this is some heavy lifting. We had a comment by Councilmember Asafa Dawson.
Yeah, I think it kind of piggybacks to what Councilmember Duclos said, and it's about the businesses there. So what I'm hearing is the alignment is not set in stone.
Correct. They don't even have a preliminary yet.
Okay. And with that, the agreement that's going to be signed between the city and Sound Transit has nothing to do with alignment.
No, that's correct. So the partnering agreement is that, in a nutshell, it's that the city is going to work with the other cities and Sound Transit through the environmental process. So we're going to be a partner to working through identifying alternatives, identifying station alternative locations and primary locations. It is not binding the city to anything. It's not endorsing any locations for anything. It's also not a funding agreement. It is purely a goodwill handshake, for lack of a better term, that, we all recognize that the voters, that the same voters that reside in the city of Federal Way collectively passed the ST3 ballot measure. And we, not just Federal Way, collectively within the Puget Sound, within the 3 counties. And that we, Sound Transit's goal is to recognize with all of the cities that everybody is responsible to the same residents, and that, it's in all of our interests to work together to the best of our abilities. It's, like I said, it is not binding to anything related to alignment, stations, anything other than we're going to work with them through the environmental process. So, and like I said, that'll be before the council at the next LUTC meeting. I'll have a whole nother presentation for that, but.
Yeah. So tomorrow's open house would be to look at the map and give our input?
Yeah, so tomorrow's open house is to gather feedback, and that can be from anyone that's in the room tonight. It can be from residents, it can be from businesses, it can be from nonprofits, for-profits, it can be from anybody that is within the project area. So that can be Federal Way, Fife, Tacoma, that whole corridor. But the goal, whether you're a citizen, a business owner, a council member, whatever the case may be, it's to provide that feedback. And like I said, formal feedback and what the city did relate to the Federal Way link extension and coming before council with a discussion and then council endorsing something, that will come. We're not that far yet. But that will, at some point in the next couple of years, be in front of you to provide formal council adopted feedback. But we're not there. This is just, if you want to go as, elected official or as a individual citizen, you are.
Okay, great. Yep. Oh, go ahead.
Just one more comment. I will be attending the thing tomorrow night. I do want to make one statement, though. Collectively, yes, it was passed. Federal Way people did not pass it.
I tried to word that as carefully as I could, but yes,
you
are correct.
I want people to know that our people were smart and did not pass it.
You are correct.
All right, Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. The operation and maintenance facility, last time I talked with Sound Transit about this, there were 4 sites, 3 in Fife and 1 possible one in Federal Way area. Is that still true?
So the 4 sites that were part of the ST3 ballot measure, 2 were in Fife, 1 was in Tacoma, 1 was in unincorporated King County that was within our southern PAA as identified by Puget Sound Regional Council. As part of the ballot measure, they also have the ability to put it anywhere south of Seattle. So again, kind of going back to we're at step 1 of before the EIS, we're not even at the formal EIS process. They are looking at that from an operations perspective and seeing if those sites make sense. Those sites were assumed for budgeting for the ballot measure. Where exactly it ends up will be an outcome of that within Sound Transit's context of what works for the system and then dovetailed into what works within the EIS. But those 4 sites were for costing purposes, which is buried in the fine print of the ballot measure, but the locations it will not be limited to those 4 sites.
It will not be?
No. Everything is on the table south of Seattle, and that is some of the feedback they're looking for.
So is that one of the first things that's decided where this facility will be?
No, it will all be decided at the same time. There's not a first and second. Overall, it's one project. That doesn't mean that as the project advances, Sound Transit has the authority to break the project and have one contract that builds an OMF at location A and a second contract that builds track and a third contract that builds station or more track. So that'll come out later, but the actual process to decide locations is the EIS, the Environmental Impact Statement process, that ultimately Sound Transit leads. It gets approved by FHA through input and FTA as well, Federal Transit Authority, with input from all of the elected city, all the impacted cities, not just Federal Way, and then it's passed by resolution by the Sound Transit Board.
Is there enough funding for this part of the project?
The ST3 ballot measure has a funding assumption in it. I can ask Sound Transit to address that comment on the 15th.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I can't answer that, though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, EJ.
Sure.
All right, Mayor's Emerging Issues and Report. We've got the first Neighborhood Connection, or Town Hall meeting, set for next Thursday, the 26th, at Twin Lakes Elementary, starting at 6 p.m. That's next Thursday, 6 p.m. Town Hall meeting, we'll have the directors there. We'll have a brief presentation on, I think we're going to touch on the budget, Public Works, talk about projects that are up and coming. We're going to hear from the police chief. We'll probably hear about some economic development things. I'll say a few words. The council will be there, and it'll be a great opportunity, really, as City Hall coming out to the neighborhoods. And we'll have at least one or two more in the rest of the year. But this was the spring Neighborhood Connection meeting, next Thursday, 6 p.m. Centerstage contract update. We've got Parks Director John Hutton.
Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor Honda, and council members. This is open here. So, this is for information only this evening. Tonight I have the unpleasant duty to provide you with some information that is not fun to deliver, and I take no pleasure in it. With that, the City of Federal Way is currently in a difficult financial situation that has been well documented in the Mirror and in community circles. This situation has forced all of us to examine our budgets and look for ways to ensure stability going forward. With that said, I have recommended to the mayor not to extend the contract past its expiration date in June of 2018. The city has no desire to harm Centerstage, and I certainly have no personal desire to harm Centerstage. But the city has a fiduciary duty to protect the public purse and to expend taxpayer funds in a way that maximizes the benefits to the greatest number of our citizens. I feel the best way to do this at Dumas Bay is to maximize all revenue streams and manage expenses closely. The spaces that Centerstage currently occupies have real rental value, and the city needs to capture that revenue. So,
Please don't do that.
we would welcome Centerstage to stay on and hope they possibly can, and we'll go through the PowerPoint, and I'm happy to answer any questions. So how did we get here? 9 years ago, we entered into an agreement with Centerstage to manage the theater. In 2015, the contract was amended with new terms that increased compensation by $24,000 to Centerstage and provided the city to the ability to rent spaces with less than 180 days out. Want to be clear, we're not canceling the contract, we're simply not recommending renewal. True financial cost to the city is $100,000 direct payment plus loss of potential revenue generation. This is funded by the general fund. So the spaces included in the agreement, I'll do you the service of not reading all of those. As you can see, there's a large number of spaces that are included in the agreement that Centerstage has control over those. And on the second floor, there's some storage and, of course, the tech booth for when they do their live performances. Financials. The city pays Centerstage $8,333.33 a month, which comes out to $100,000 a year. The total payment over the past 3 years has been $300,000. When city staff manage the spaces now occupied by Centerstage, the city averaged $104,000 annually in revenue generation in those spaces. The revenue potential is much higher today with our staff that is, including our food service that we have. Uncaptured revenue. Most of these spaces provided currently provided to Centerstage have real rental potential. Hourly rates, for instance, for the theater, rehearsal hall, and lobby, which we refer to as the theater complex, is $335 an hour or $2,000 for a 9-hour rate. The city needs to capture this potential revenue. The subsidy, given the city's financial structural imbalance that we've talked about quite a bit lately at council meetings, we cannot justify spending $100,000 per year from the general fund and provide valuable rental space at no charge to any group. This contract provides one organization a large subsidy, does not support the ability for other groups to really use the complex. So just to give you an idea of other groups that are funded through the city through the Arts Commission contract for services, you can see there are several. I believe there are 11: Federal Way Symphony, Centerstage, Chorale, Rosebud Children's Theater, Northwest Symphony Orchestra, Federal Way Youth Orchestra Symphony, the Harmony Kings, Jet Cities Chorus, and Historical Society of Federal Way. I put up there the allocations. I hope you can read those. We did the best we could to make those as big as we possibly could. You can see that some are larger, some are smaller, but on average, it's about $4,300 per organization per year. And you can see where Centerstage falls there. The Symphony has a larger allocation each year. Centerstage is second to them. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions for you. Again, this is information only, but happy to answer any questions you may have.
John, so the contract expires at the end of June?
Correct, June 30th.
Okay. And has there been any negotiation up to this point?
We meet monthly with Angela Baylor, who is their managing director, and it was a very pleasant meeting. She's a great lady. We enjoy our relationship with them. It's just not financially beneficial. We've not really negotiated because as things have developed over the last few months, budgetarily, it just didn't appear that there would be a way forward. We're welcome to sit down and talk about things that didn't involve the financials potentially, but at this point, you used the term intellectual honesty, and I used that in my last meeting with Angela, and said I don't see a way forward financially in the circumstances that we're in and the choices we have to make today, where we could continue to pay Centerstage and have them use our space as well that we can't rent. Even though we tried, I believe Centerstage is a great organization. They do a good job. They tried their best. It didn't turn out the way we had hoped it would 3 years ago when we renegotiated the contract the way we had hoped.
Would they be able to rent the facility?
Absolutely. We would love that.
Who runs Dumas Bay now?
City of Federal Way,
And who's the manager there?
Rob Ettinger, and he's here tonight if you have specific questions for Dumas Bay.
I just want to let everybody, so Rob Ettinger is here.
He is here, yeah.
And does he concur with this recommendation?
Yes, sir.
All right. Councilmember Sepidawson.
Thank you. Thank you. So the $100,000 a year that we subsidize it with, right?
We pay them a managing contract, $100,000 a year.
And then the arts group funding allocation of $9,000 per year?
That is allocated by the Arts Commission through Arts Commission grants it's called Contract for Services that you approve each year.
So it's an addition?
That's an addition, that's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. John, thank you for your report. I know this can't be an easy thing to have to stand there and report on this factor. So I believe you stated that you have met with Angela on a regular basis, would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
We're scheduled to meet monthly.
Monthly, okay. And so my first question is, did Angela ever come at you and saying, hey, when should we begin the conversation of renegotiation?
Yes, she did. She started that, talking about that in November or December of last year. I told her I honestly didn't know. Been no discussion. That's an honest answer. Hadn't been any discussion. Things were not what they are today financially then. And I've talked about this directly, direct quotes to her, exactly what I said to her. It's absolutely the truth that she did ask, and I said, I don't have any information. I don't know which way it's going to go. I didn't have a feeling either direction.
Sure, and I can certainly respect that. So when was the conversation that you guys had that took place with regards to, hey, this may not move forward?
We never had that conversation.
Okay.
I sent an email on Friday to Bob Dockstetter, who's the board member, the chairman of their board, and to Angela, letting them know essentially what I read you at the beginning of my statement.
Right. Friday, as in this past Friday?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. You know, I have to say that I certainly do respect John's report. You know, like I said, it's not an easy thing to do at all. And certainly I do recognize that this is hard financial times. I am concerned about this, you know, and I look forward to discussing this more with the mayor's office. I know that we briefly talked about this today. But, you know, I did meet with Angela today, and I appreciated her time today. And, you know, I think it's really important to note that they've had successes since the very last time we've discussed this. And if nothing had changed since the last time we had reviewed their contract, then I would be much more favorable. But at this time, because of their sales tickets have gone up, because of the fact that their season holders pass has gone up considerably, tells me that they're on a new pathway with new leadership that's different than the last time I sat in this chair reviewing their contract. I think because of the good things that they're doing and the innovative partnerships that they're creating, one of them quite recently with Councilmember Jesse and Rugged, help me out. Genius. You know, they're definitely creating innovative partnerships that can contribute towards the very work we're doing in terms of violence prevention coalition. So this is something I look forward to reviewing a lot more closely. But at this time, while we're not making a decision today,
right.
I do look forward to listening, as I told that to the mayor. But at the same time, because of the successes and because of the different course that's taken in the last 3 years, I don't want to get in the way of that. And I want to look at, I'm excited about their future, quite frankly. So this is a hearty conversation I'm looking forward to having with my colleagues and the mayor's office. Thanks.
Councilmember Kopech.
John, I want to thank you for the report, and I know that it's a difficult one to deliver. I think I look at the financial situation that we have in our city, and I think that we took steps the last couple weeks ago to hopefully to help alleviate some of those issues. But there still are some systemic issues that we need to continue to address, and I think being financially wise in how we utilize the assets we have is still an important component in that. The concern I have, though, is that when do we lose our soul as a city? And I think that's an important component, and I think one that we really do need to look at. We've talked about it a little bit, but the necessities that we have. There's the things that are strategic for us to look at, and I don't look at Centerstage necessarily as a necessity for our community, but I definitely look at it as a strategic partnership for us. And I want to see us. I think I've seen some success on their part that is certainly encouraging to me. I think the new path that they've charted in this last year with the new art director and partnership that she and the managing director have, I think that they've been able to create some nice synergies. So to cut that off now by not at least giving them every opportunity to come to a reasonable meeting of the middle, I think is something that I really think that I think as a member of the council would really support us going through that process. I think I'm a little bit concerned about there being a 75-day notice on something that's 120 days. So I think that, all things considered, I think it's reasonable for us to at least look at extending for a couple months what we're doing so that we can go through that process. But again, I'm just one council member, and not my decision. But again, I think that we have an opportunity, I think, to look at our future. And Centerstage can be in our future or it can be out of our future. And I certainly want to make every effort to include them in our future. I think they are a vital resource for our city. So.
If I may, Councilmember Kopang, I agree 100%. You talk about the soul of our community. I believe our department, Parks Department alone, represents the soul. I told Angela, it's like picking on your sister. This is something we believe in, and something that we support. It's just a financial decision. It kills me to do this. It's very difficult. You talk about the soul. You're absolutely right. That plays exactly into what my whole career is the soul of a community. And Parks and Recreation, live theater, live music, all of those things are very important. And as I told Angela regarding the 75 days, things have changed dramatically in the past 60 days, dramatically as we've looked at things. As you know, our council meetings have been quite a bit different the last several council meetings regarding budget. So, but I hear what you're saying, and I agree. I'd love to see what can be done.
Councilmember Duclos.
I concur with my fellow council member here. I'm not ready to say, let's cut it off. Arts are a great part of our community and a great part of our soul as people. And I'm not, I know we're in tough straits, and I think we need to look at things, but I'm not ready to say, let's cut off this contract with Centerstage. Centerstage has been a part of this community since I moved here, and I hope to see it be here long after I leave. Of course, I won't see it then. So I'm really not ready to say, no, cut it off. I want to see if we can't work something out.
Well, Do you have anything?
No.
Jesse?
Thank you, John, for the presentation. I know it takes courage to get up there and speak on a tough issue. And I also want to thank Centerstage for the event that Councilmember Moore alluded to. I just wanted to know about a timeline for this, a general timeline for the council, and then also how we're going to involve the community aspect of it, of getting, feedback and input.
I don't know that I have a timeline. I know that the contract expires on June 30th, and we've provided notice to Centerstage. Financially, I don't know that there's a better recommendation from just a pure business point. I feel that considering the things that we're considering budgetarily in the city, that I feel the recommendation, while painful and not fun to deliver, is my duty in this position. I don't enjoy it one bit, but it feels like, in light of what we've done recently, where we know we're at with regards to many other internal city matters, that I feel I gave the appropriate and correct advice to the mayor. And I don't timeline-wise, it's June 30th. I don't know what other timeline.
Okay. All right. We'll provide information to the council. This is just as an information item to the council. Councilmember Moore?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the time that you're giving. Just to the audience, for those that don't know John Hutton, I'll tell you, I've had a chance to work with him for a long time. Back when I was a temporary summer employee to being on the city council, and I do have to say that John carries a lot of wisdom, and John is very thorough and has been very successful in everything that he's done here at City Hall. So I just want to be really clear that, I hear you, and I don't want this to be, let's go after John here. It's, Mr. Mayor, I feel the need to say this, that this is one of the smartest people that we have here at City Hall. So my statement is just purely on my opinion, but I have a lot of respect for you coming to do what's often known as the difficult thing to do. And we all have the job to do, and you're doing your job, and I appreciate that. So I just wanted to put that out there, Mr.
I do need to say, John is a director, he's acting at my direction, and he came to me with this on his own, and he basically, as we were going through this process, said that he had been wrestling with this issue, is now faced with the negotiation of this contract, and essentially what we've got, if you boil it down, what we've got is a private entity managing a city resource. A city resource now that we are expending $100,000 a year and walking away from at least $100,000 a year in regard to revenue. And so this is something that we'll certainly engage the council and talk about this. But this is about city resources, and we need to have these difficult conversations. So when we've been talking for the last, I think John had brought up. Thank you, John. Thank you, Councilmember Moore, for pointing that out. It's difficult to speak these hard truths, but as many people have been watching, looking at our local paper, maybe watching these meetings, we've had a lot of discussion in regard to how we are approaching our budget issues. A lot of them are, obviously many of them are years in the making, a structural imbalance that has been set up by initiatives and by just certain factors beyond our control. And so there are a lot of factors to consider, and this is just one of them. The reason why this comes up now, obviously, is because of the pendency of the contract. We'll continue. We wanted to make sure as soon as this issue came up, we obviously brought this up as an information item for the public, for the council, and more discussion to continue. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now under a much more pleasant topic, Parks Appreciation Day. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. This is a much more pleasant topic. Thank you. I would like to remind everyone that this Saturday from 9 to noon is Parks Appreciation Day. We're focusing our efforts this year at Celebration Park. It is going to be a great event. There are 3 large groups, and I'm going to let Jason Gerwin come up, our Parks and Facilities Manager, who has been a lead on this project for many years, has done a fantastic job, and Jason's going to speak a little bit about the project. I do want to, before I give up the microphone to Jason, I want to invite people to come out as individuals, as friends. We have 3 large groups coming out, but you do not have to be part of a group. Just come on out. You will have a great time. We're going to feed you a great lunch, and we're going to make Celebration Park shine like a new penny. So with that, Jason Gerwin.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, once again. Again, this Saturday, Parks Appreciation Day. Wanted to first recognize Jack Walsh with the LDS Church and Shelley Pauls with We Love Our City. They have been diligent in helping me plan this event. This is going to be the 13th iteration of Parks Appreciation Day. We did other events prior to this in the city, but it was more token tree planting, something like that. We have several large groups coming. Church of the Blessings bringing 150, We Love Our City, another 50, Air Force Junior ROTC, the football club, AmeriCorps Federal Way. We have some sponsors, Costco, WSECU, Trader Joe's. So it's looking like we got 55-degree temperatures, partly cloudy. Hope to see you all with some good work clothes on, some good sturdy boots, and we're going to make Celebration shine. And this is all in preparation for hosting the Special Olympics this summer. So hope to see you this Saturday.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. Okay. This Saturday at 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. At Wild Waves, there's a city recycling event, again, at Wild Waves, this Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And you should have received a recycling events a brochure in your mail, let you know what you can. If you can't, I'm sure you can find it on the city website. If you can't find it there, contact my office and we'll make sure we send that off to you. They are really super organized there. And it's the kind of things that that maybe sits inside the garage or on the side of your garage. You just can't figure out what to do with or how to get rid of. This is the time to do that. So we'll see you then. Okay, and it's a great, thank you Marwan and your team for putting that on. It's very, very organized. Okay, Federal Way Youth Action Team, community cleanup, Saturday, April 28th at 9:30 a.m. Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, so just to add to what you said, the HYPE group, which is Helping Youth Perform Excellence, part of the Federal Way Youth Action Team, is a entirely student-led community cleanup coming up a couple Saturdays from now. We have Shay and Andre in the audience, and they're going to be speaking to that during public comment, but really encourage the youth and the entire community really to get out and help clean up our city. I always say that youth are powerful and necessary for change in our community, and I think that it'll be a great event, entirely student-led, and so look forward to being out there myself.
All right, great, thank you very much. Okay, now, the most important part of the meeting, citizen comment. You've got 3 minutes unless you've got 5 individuals who are present and signed on, and we all know the rules. Rose Rattray. And then as Rose makes her way to the podium, we've got a couple more. Let me call out so you guys can kind of get on deck. Tashana Nash, Dee McGinnis, Gerald Knutson, Lawson Bronson. So, Rose?
Okay, hi. You all know me, or most of you know me. Rose Rattray, citizen, voter, taxpayer, homeowner, and all that stuff. I had a whole bunch of things prepared to say, but I changed my mind. I got really annoyed when you talked about $100,000 that the city is losing, you're giving to Centerstage. You know something? Just think about that as a grant that you're giving them. They deserve more than $100,000. When you think about all that they do, I'm going to give you an example. A friend gave me some tickets to the Fifth Avenue Theater, which is in Seattle. So Billy and I went down to the theater, had a nice seat. It was $105 for one seat, I just got a subscription, because I'm a senior citizen. I got a subscription to the Centerstage. I got 5 plays for, I think, $110 or something. And you're complaining about $110,000. I have a feeling, because I'm not from here, I'm from someplace else. I have a feeling what you people in Federal Way did was you took some of the money that was going to the Centerstage and you put it in the Performing Arts Center. See, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Now, I started to write down a lot of notes and all that sort of stuff. I want to tell you, Centerstage has quality performances. They're professional. They involve the community. They're responsive to the needs of the community. This is something that you should be increasing your funding. I don't know much about your budget issues because I'm a senior citizen, so I don't follow your budget issues too well. But something just tells me maybe you're doing creative financing or something. It just seems like this is such a worthy endeavor that I fully feel you should be supporting it more. And if you're doing creative financing, I have a lot more time. If you're doing some creative bookkeeping and stuff like that, which is what they do where I come from, maybe you're not doing that out here, but Mayor, give me a break. I know you, Mayor. I know you people. We're all friends. $100,000, listen, you can afford it. You might have some budget issues. What is $100,000 to you people? What is $100,000? You know, another thing, it is unconscionable that you just gave them notice on Friday the 13th. You had to know about these budget issues months ago. What were you doing all these months? Why did it take you so long to tell them? Now they have until, what, June 30th? Okay, I have 35 more seconds. People, get your act together. Give them back their money. Increase the money you give them. As far as what you're losing, you're not losing anything. Think of the community rapport and all that sort of stuff. Think about future elections. Think about all this sort of stuff, okay? And I finished early.
Tashana?
Good evening. My name is Tashana Nash, and on behalf of Save Weyerhaeuser Campus, I would like to invite all of you to join us for our second annual Earth Day Walk this Sunday, April 22nd at 2 p.m. We will start at the corner of 20th Avenue South and South 336th Street. Check-in begins at 1:30 and parking is available at the Christian Faith Center. Our route will be east through the meadow, north at the roundabout onto Weyerhaeuser Way, and to the public boat launch and back. The Rhododendron Species Botanical Garden is offering free admission to all walk participants that day. Their hours are from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Save Weyerhaeuser Campus will have an information table set up at the entrance between the Rhody Garden and the Pacific Bonsai Museum for the day. We would also like to thank Three Trees Yoga, who is collecting donations all day on Earth Day and donating all proceeds from their 12 p.m. class to Save Weyerhaeuser Campus. All donations received will go to support the ongoing efforts of our nonprofit organization. Our mission is to preserve the forests, meadows, and trails and the public access to them, protect North Lake's west shoreline and watershed, the wildlife habitat, the Rhododendron Species Botanical Garden, and the Pacific Bonsai Museum. For more details, please visit our Save Weyerhaeuser Campus Facebook page and message us if you have any questions or would like to help. We hope to see you there on Earth Day this Sunday, April 22nd. Thank you.
Okay, Dee McGinnis, and then Gerald Knutson.
Yeah, that's me. I'm Dee McGinnis. I've been living here since 78, started with Centerstage in 81. The history of Centerstage makes it family in Federal Way. We have sent out actresses and actors who have been in plays, who have been in TV, who have been in movies. Frazier, the girl that plays his brother's second wife, she started here in Gigi. So there is a history with Centerstage, and we can't give that up. Now, part of the reason why sometimes Centerstage doesn't make very much money, Federal Way has changed so drastically within the last 7 years. It takes a while for Centerstage to understand what their audience now wants. When I first started, we were doing Gigi, we were doing Picnic, we were doing Of Mice and Men, we were doing classics, and that's what was learned in schools, and that's what people wanted to see. Then it changed again. So sometimes, yes, Centerstage might lose some money for a while until they get it back again and get back into the rhythm. But it always goes back up. It always has. It will again. I ask that you please find the money for them. Federal Way has made accidental mistakes on things like, okay, the Performing Arts Center. That cost way more than Centerstage costs per year, and so far it hasn't brought it back in. You're talking about the transit. It was proved a long time ago when they first put it in that transit would never pay for itself. It is always being paid by the cities it runs through. We're telling you that Centerstage will pay what it needs to pay if you give it enough time to find out what our new people who are moving in here want. And then we'll start showing them that, and we'll be performing that. My question for you that are going to be doing this voting is how many of you have seen a number of plays there? Not just one, but have been and seen many of the plays, and you'll see the variety. I guess I'm up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dee Dee. Okay. Gerald Knutson, then Lawson Bronson.
Thank you. I'm Gerald Knutson, and I'm speaking on behalf of my parents and my two older brothers and my younger sister. My parents moved here before I was born, so that's a long time ago. And we've always felt strongly about our community. And 20 years ago, we gave $250,000 to the city to help fund the new theater that was planned at Dumas Bay Center just after the city had bought the park. And as a result of that, we have the naming rights, so that's why on the slide there you see the Knutson Family Theater. And I guess a few years ago when the PAC was being discussed, I came and spoke to the council just as I am tonight, just concerned over what would happen with the theater that we helped fund, that the PAC wouldn't in any way deflect from what is being done at Centerstage. And I recall shortly after that, I spoke with a council member who asked to meet with me, and she promised that the theater would blossom under the PAC. That was my recollection from the meeting, so not to worry about it, which I haven't. And I guess right now, I don't know what the plans are other than the Centerstage contract, but I assume this theater is still going to be there and it's still going to have our name on it. And I guess I hope it's, whatever you do, it's a successful theater that serves the community in a different environment than what the PAC does. That the community theater is very important, and I'm the only one that's left in our family who lives in Federal Way. They have nieces and nephews and my kids, but they don't live here anymore. But we still want to have our name on the theater as long as it's there, and we hope it's a theater that provides services to the community. Thank you.
So thank you, Gerald. And Gerald, thank you thank you to your family for your generosity, and it certainly is not going anywhere. This is just a matter of who's running it. Lawson Bronson, and then Betty Taylor.
Mr. Mayor, and members of the council, I came here to talk to you about one issue, but I now have two. The first one is, according to the presentation that was put on some time ago, we have, I think, according to the standards, we have excess park and open space property. According to the numbers that I get out of it, we could have 104,000 people and still have an adequate number of parks, trails, open space, and all of that. With that in mind, and with it in mind that we can't maintain the ones that we have now, why are we trying to acquire more property over in the Weyerhaeuser area that apparently all we're going to get is capital, not operating expenses? So why are we going to acquire that property over there? And that was about what I was going to end up with. But now you've touched on one of my loves, which is Centerstage. I've lived here for 40 some odd years. I've been a volunteer over there for 30 some odd years. They put on great shows. If it costs us $100,000 for them, find the $100,000 and cut it somewhere else. I don't know what else I can say. This is insane. You tell me you're going to go acquire more property that you can't maintain, but you'll cut out Centerstage. I'm a voter too. I will remember who votes which way.
The money that has been accumulated to purchase the property on the west side of North Lake is a preservation issue, as a preservation, or those are preservation grants with the King County Conservation Grants. The city put $1 million that we had in surface water management money, which is not general fund money. That's money that can only be used for surface water management. Then we got a matching grant, so we got a matching grant from the King County Conservation Trust. We're not going to go into back and forth, Mr. Braun. We are not going to go into back and forth. Okay. We're not going to go into back and forth. Okay. You asked a question. I'm going to provide an answer. So we're now applying for more King County Conservation grants, and that's what the effort is right now. Those are grants. That is not that the money that are being used for that is not to be used for general fund to be used to operate the city. It's not legal, and it just mixes. It's apples and oranges, and that's why we spent about over an hour at the last council meeting speaking about the purposes of public monies. Okay, Betty Taylor.
Good evening, citizens. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Betty Taylor, and there's an issue that has been bothering me for a long time. Okay, and it deals with the homeless, and I've been trying to figure out how can we combat this problem that we do have in the city. So anyway, I've come up with hopefully a solution. I've come up with the idea of tiny houses. And I'd like to read something right now. I would like to read something about an organization. Okay, let me see. The Low Income Housing Institute develops, owns, and operates housing for the benefit of low-income homeless and formerly homeless people in Washington State. They advocate for just housing policies at the local and national level, and administers a range of supportive service programs to assist those we serve in maintaining stable housing and increasing their self-sufficiency. They were founded in 1991, and they have grown to be one of the most productive, affordable housing developers in the Northwest. They own and they manage over 2,000 housing units at 50 sites in 6 countries throughout the Puget Sound region. 80% of the housing is reserved for households earning less than 30% of the area median household income. They also provide a variety of supportive services to help residents maintain their housing. I gotta go real quick because I have 1 minute, 21 seconds. Let me read this. Tiny houses, in partnership with Nicholsville, Share, Will, Camp Second Chance, the City of Seattle, Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd, and building trade organizations throughout the state of Washington. The Low Income Housing Institute is one of the largest providers of tiny house village shelters in the nation, ensuring that people experience in the homelessness is as safe, dignified, and brief as possible. Tiny houses offer tremendous benefits over tents. They are safe, weatherproof, and lockable. And the communities that we help build allow residents to reclaim their dignity and get on a path to housing in a supportive village environment. Each tiny house has electricity, overhead light, and a heater. Each tiny house village has kitchen and restroom facilities, on-site showers and laundry, a counseling office, and welcome security hut where donations of food, clothing, and hygiene items can be dropped off. In the process of me doing some research, I also created a Facebook page, which is called Tiny Houses for the Homeless. And on that page, different people in the community have been sending me posts and sending me links, and everything that they send me, I post on this Tiny House for the Homeless page. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share. I'm grateful for the comments and the suggestions that have come since I developed that.
Thank you, Betty.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Jasmine Mendoza, and then Leah Lee, and Trista Duvall, Angela Baylor, and there we go. Okay. Jasmine.
Good evening, council members of Federal Way, citizens of Federal Way, Mr. Mayor. I am here tonight with Centerstage Theater. I'm not here to argue budget or finances. I'm too young for that and I don't like math. Tonight, I am here on behalf of the youth of Federal Way, namely the youth who have found family and home at Centerstage Theater. I am 15 years old. I attend Decatur High School, and I work as a high school intern at Centerstage. And tonight, I'm also joined by 4 out of 6 other high school interns. Could I have you guys please stand? Now, I can tell you with certainty right now that these people, myself included, would not be where we are without Centerstage. It has provided us with opportunities to grow our interests and to learn what it means to be part of the community. And it is not only on stage that we are affected by Centerstage. We are also affected off stage as parts of the audience. I'm also joined by a number of fellow high schoolers who love Centerstage, and their experiences there watching shows and volunteering with Key Club have been overwhelmingly positive. Could I also have you guys stand up? I can speak on behalf of all of us when I say that Centerstage has opened doors. It has taught us how to be parts of the community. It has taught us how to volunteer and how we can be a bigger part of Federal Way. One of my best friends, Catherine Hernandez, she saw her very first show at Centerstage and has been to almost every single one since. And she has been incredibly supportive, as has everyone else. Centerstage impacts us in our youth. In front of you stands your future. Councilman Johnson, you say that the youth are powerful. Let us show you how powerful we can be. Thank you for your time.
Leah Lee.
Yes, hello everyone. I am Leah Lee, and I'm also here with Centerstage. And I only have 3 minutes, so I'm going to choose to focus on the immensely important role that Centerstage plays in the development of actors here in the Pacific Northwest. And quite serendipitously, behind the mayor and behind the members of the council, we have a sign here that says City of Federal Way, centered on opportunity. Now, I now call Federal Way my home, and Centerstage is a center for opportunity. especially for actors like myself. For those who don't know, many people here in the Pacific Northwest who have gone to drama school, who've had performance training, we don't immediately get jobs on Broadway or in LA right when we graduate. And that's the reality of it, and that's very much understood. And so for many of us, our careers have to progress. And without places like Centerstage that provide professional working theaters, that produce high-quality shows, and that also include professional designers, directors, stage managers, stagehands. Without these kinds of performing arts productions, we cannot progress to the next level of our career. Theaters like Fifth Avenue and The Village, ACT, they will not look at our resumes and give us the time to even audition for them unless we have a credible resume. And that is why places like Centerstage, which are unfortunately dying here in the Pacific Northwest, are even more important. And if I can also speak to the fact that I studied and lived in London for several years, and unfortunately the UK as a country is having the same conversation because many people from minority groups are finding it very difficult to break into theaters like the National Theater or other larger West End venues because they lack this, beautiful kind of middle ground where here in America we have so many smaller community theaters and semi-professional theaters which help those actors who have been on the margins for so long find opportunities to take leading roles and gain the respect of casting directors, of artistic directors from larger venues. And so I hope that what's happening tonight and what could possibly happen to Centerstage is not part of a larger trend here in the United States where we're seeing these smaller, and I say smaller, and I don't want to degrade the quality of the productions, but these smaller companies to support larger work for the future. Thank you.
Trista Duvall.
Hey, my name's Trista Duvall. Hello, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and members of the council. I am the Artistic Director of Centerstage Theater. I have been since July 1st of this past year. Can I have everyone who's here to support Centerstage stand up real quick just so we can see how many? My gosh. Thank you so much. And can you raise your hand additionally if you live or work in Federal Way as well? Awesome. Okay, great. I am here on behalf of Federal Way, obviously, to make a couple of key points. And my first key point that I want to make is that we have been fundamentally, over the last 9 months, which is not a very long time, so all of the strides that we've made forward that I'm going to list off, please keep in mind that they have happened in the last 9 months, has been to essentially and fundamentally change the partnership that Centerstage has with the City of Federal Way, in that we are giving exponentially more than we are receiving, and we are getting there, and we are on the path to that. I would also like to point out that a resident theater company being in a space does not prevent using that space for other arts venues, for other arts groups. It actually increases the potential to use it because the space becomes known by the community. Thank you. We are proud to have gotten the Best of Federal Way award from the citizens of Federal Way for 8 out of the last 10 years. We're really proud of that. One of the city goals is to be surveying teens and implementing additional teen programming. That is in your bullet points from some of your meetings in the past. And that's one of the things that Centerstage has really been a part of. We have gotten teens in to see things. We've received grants, so we're able to tell any teenager who wants to come see a show with us that yes, you can come for free. We started a program called Page to the Stage, which increased accessibility and got kids from Todd Beamer High School to follow along, hi guys, a path from seeing a show in rehearsal all the way through to production and then seeing the show for free. They were mentored by an actor in the production. You will have some printouts of some letters from the teacher who was over that class. We have interns who you saw already and they spoke, so we have been really increasing the accessibility for the teens, especially those who are marginalized. Increasing diversity, the Seattle-Tacoma area has about 30 30% people of color. And so what we have done is we have made it a goal to match our casting to what the area looks like. So in the past year, we have increased our casting to 30% people of color, which is a 70% increase in people of color being given jobs on our stage. In the future, some of the projects that we're working on that we have already started working on, because you already have to plan next season, is a program for at-risk youth along with CHI Franciscan to get them employed and get them seen and heard. A New Works Festival where we have playwrights submitting their plays from Southern California up through Oregon and Washington all the way through to Ohio. A Shakespeare for Veterans programs, increasing support to groups like Rugged Genius to elevate their platform of positive media, and a revamped summer education program. We are just asking for a chance to negotiate for a win-win situation for us in the city. We don't need you to keep things as they were. We just need you to come to the table and talk to us so that we can all win this. Thank you so much.
Angela Baylor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Angela Baylor. I am the Managing Director of Centerstage Theater. I have actually been Managing Director since July of 2016, so I've been here a little over 19 months. In that time, in the first 6 months, I became incredibly involved in the community. I am a proud member of Rotary. I am also a Chamber of Commerce ambassador, so I view the City of Federal Way as my community. You will find in your boxes, if you don't have them already, letters of support that we have received just in the last 24 hours in response to an email that we sent out. So I would urge you to read those. We are committed to continuing to be a vital component in the City of Federal Way. We have, as Councilmember Moore had talked about, we have increased our ticket sales. Last year, we ranged from 12% house sold to 44% house sold. This year, we ranged from 20% house sold to 56% household. So we are moving in the right direction. We have also increased our season ticket sales. For 2016-17 season, we sold 57 season tickets. For the 2017-18 season, we sold 230 season tickets. And as you can see, we are making great strides to increase our income and to bring financial health to our community. We're not there yet, but we're on our way. The $850,000 shortfall is due in part, I know, to increase the SCORE jail fees that are incurred. Decreasing crime does not happen with putting people in jail. It starts with addressing what causes people to commit crimes. This means reaching the youth of Federal Way and giving them an alternative to going down a path of crime. As a professional theater company, we have the resources to help you, the City of Federal Way, increase the socioeconomic picture of the Federal Way by providing an opportunity for the youth of Federal Way to learn vital life skills. We have also been, Alec Clayton of the News Tribune in Tacoma has written that Centerstage, located in the Knutson Family Theater at Dash Point, is a professional theater on level with ACT Theater and Seattle Rep. So we are bringing professional theater to the South Sound region, and Federal Way can boast that. As it's been said, with 78 days notice, it does not give us a lot of time to figure out what to do, but pulling the management fee and subsequently charging us rent will effectively destroy the progress we were making and will continue to make on improving the quality of life for federal residents in South Puget Sound. We ask that you renew our contract with the city, thus allowing us to continue making an impact on the City of Federal Way. If you are not able to do that, please Mr. Mayor and City Council, I would ask you to recommend that we both come to the table to negotiate. And I want to finish with one last statement. A professor a billion years ago told me, without art, we're just monkeys with car keys. Thank you.
Josias Jean-Pierre. And then Julie Hiller. And then Debbie Peterson.
Hello, City Council, as the Mayor. I'm Josiah Jean-Pierre, local author and motivational speaker in the city, going to the schools. I hear a lot of these budget cuts, but how is the budget cuts in education? Every year, thousands and thousands of dollars get cut in education every year, where it brings lack of resources when it comes to kids teachers teaching our kids, where it brings cutting when it comes to teacher salaries. So since City of Federal Way is an opportunity, how is this center an opportunity when it comes to education? And how is the budget looking like when it comes to education and resources? And that's my question for y'all.
Josiah, what I'll do is I'll have, I'm going to put your pink sheet aside. I'll have John Hutton, our Parks Director, call you tomorrow, okay? All right, thank you very much. Good question. Julie Hiller?
Hi, thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk tonight. I came here to speak on behalf of my husband and I about Centerstage, and I had some things I was going to say about why it's so important and vital in our community and what it does for youth, but the people here have done a much better job at that than I could. So what I just want to ask you is to please reconsider your position on the contract for all the reasons that you've heard and more. The thing that's concerning to me tonight is that I've heard a little bit of conversation about the Performing Arts and Events Center, and that's being blamed for why we're not able to continue with Centerstage. And art should bring us together, and it should lift us up. It should not divide us. And when the discussion of the Performing Arts and Events Center first occurred, and there was a lot of strong feeling in our community about that, but it was the belief of the council at the time under the mayor's leadership and others that this would be something be good for our community, and that there would be room in our community for a vital event center as well as to continue our local community theater. They serve two different needs. They work together complementary, but they also serve different functions. And I don't want to see our city torn apart by that kind of conversation. I don't think that that's good for us. I don't think it's healthy for any of us. So that's what I want to leave you guys with tonight, is just to please think about that. Think about the priorities of our city. I know $100,000 a year is a lot of money, but that's not enough to solve our budget problem. And hopefully there are solutions underway that can do that. And I'd also ask that as you consider about revenue potential, I've heard that conversation about the possibility of being able to use that space, that before we make a decision to not allow Centerstage to use it or to charge it at such a rate that they can't afford to use it anymore, that we really know that we've got solid numbers in place about what that kind of use would be, and that we have good pro forma data before making a decision that then basically in effect eliminates the possibility for Centerstage to continue there. So I know it's a hard decision. I know you've got a lot to think about. It's a tough job. But you can see what the arts are doing for our community, and I think that there's room. We believed that before when we went ahead with the Performing Arts and Events Center, and I believe that's still true. There's room in this community for all of it. So I'm just asking you to find a way to make it work. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Debbie Peterson, and then Shay Costin.
Good evening. Hi, Deputy Mayor and Mayor and our City Council members. As a big supporter of the arts, I really wish I was here tonight supporting Centerstage, but I'm actually here for a much more personal, basic needs issue that I've already been here talking with you all about before, and I'm hoping to hear that there's going to be some progress around this issue. So to let you all know, our City of Federal Way does not have protections in place for our citizens who are renting housing here. My family experienced a really serious housing crisis and reached out to the city for the help that I thought that was going to be there in intervening with our landlord and requiring him to take care of his house so that my family could live there. I'm here tonight asking you to please, please seriously consider adopting a rental housing inspection referendum that will give you the ability to use your power as our city representatives and as our, I don't know what words to use there, but as the people who are supposed to be helping to take care of all of us. I sincerely ask you to please do what you can to adopt that referendum. And I recognize that you're in a pretty serious situation right now in regards to city revenue. And I'd like to remind you that there are cities who actually create revenue out of requiring their landlords within their communities to both adopt inspection practices and pay fees in order to finance them, and then also when they are as neglectful as my landlord was, they would become responsible for fees as designated by the City of Federal Way. I believe that you have a responsibility to protect your citizens, to do what you can with your power to serve and take care of us. And I also believe that making a referendum in place within Federal Way could contribute to solving this issue that you're dealing with right now. I'd like to remind you, I'm not alone in dealing with these sorts of issues. I may be alone standing up here in front of you, and I am a person who's well-resourced as far as knowing what my rights are and where to go to have my rights met, and who will be able to help take care of the issues that my family faces. And I recognize that there are a lot of other people who are in much worse situations than I am, who don't know that they should be here talking to you about your responsibility to protect the citizens of Federal Way. And I sincerely ask you to please make a preventative measure. Put something in place to protect rental opportunities here in Federal Way so that families are safe and so that children don't go through the kinds of issues that my children had to live through. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shay Costin and then Hugo Cruz.
Hello, my name is Shay Costin. I just like everybody take out your phones. Everybody take out your phones and write down the fourth dot in there, the community cleanup Saturday. We're all going to be in the Sears parking lot at 9:30 just for community cleanup. That's it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. 9:30 Sears parking lot. September the 28th, Saturday. 9:30 Saturday Sears parking lot.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Shay. Hugo Cruz.
Well, hello, Mayor and council members and people that are right here. Well, anyways, what I wanted to say is oh man, I'm kind of shy up here. I don't know why. But I'm a youth leader at HYPE, which is connected to Federal Way Youth Action Team. And I wasn't actually the leader there. I started out as a student. Wasn't very the best student when I first started. But I got there through my probation officer and through crimes that I've done, which by there I met HYPE, right, which changed my whole mindset, which is here, I am here now and not being incarcerated or in jail right now. And I am here because, well, one of my teachers changed my mindset and everything. And I would like to do better for this community and future generation kids and try to help them change their mindsets, but due to the cutting of the funding, which we can't make none of that happen without the funding, and I would like to make a request for you guys to provide funding for HYPE so we can make a change in the community and help people in the community and not stop kids with violence. Just basically make them stay in school and change their mindset and become actually someone they want to be in life. Because right now, with the help of one of my teachers, I'm becoming the person I've always wanted to be in my life. And yes, that is it.
Thanks, Hugo. That's great to hear. Thank you for coming tonight. Virginia Ferguson. And then Janessa Stick. And then Mark Green. So Virginia, make it her way here. Okay. I know, sorry you guys, I didn't give you advance warning. So it goes Virginia, then Janessa, then Mark, and then Taylor Davis, Dustin Trabert, Sheila Christian.
Hi, my name is Jenny Ferguson, and I am a proud member of Washington CAN. I have been a resident of Federal Way for 29 going on 30 years now. I am a mother of 5 kids who I have raised in the city as well. We have been proud residents of Federal Way, even though I have ran into many roadblocks dealing with some lords and the city. My 17-year-old daughter, who is with me here today, has also experienced these horrible issues. And I am going to tell you about, I thank you in advance for considering to be able to pass the rental inspection law in federal way that will benefit so many residents who are like me and my family. I have had many maintenance problems with my home, which has put my family in an uncomfortable living status. And my hot water pipe burst in my hall. My apartment not too long ago, which flooded my apartment. It was pretty super high amount. As well, as a result of that, I have had to throw away a lot of my belongings. The landlord has constantly seemed not to care at all about my situation, and it took a while for us to have our apartment cleared and livable. There had to be 3 heat generators just to soak up the water in my room, my daughter's room, and in the living room. My daughter's bed is still in storage till this day because it has mold on it. I am still paying this bid off. We have been homeless before, and it is very frustrating and disappointing that once I got things together with getting an apartment, I had to deal with this. We have experienced a lot of mold in our apartment, which the landlord neglect as well. Another issue that we have experienced that once again destroyed my property was when my storage area had water bubbles in the upper part of the wall that was leaking. When I first told my landlord before the leak, she made it seem like it wasn't a big deal and did nothing about it. As a result of that, a lot of boxes were messed up. A lot of shirts and shoes were destroyed, plus a record player that I've had for 28, 29 years, ever since my son was about 4 years old. The icing on the top of the cake is when it was time for my lease to renew, my landlord did not renew my lease, simply because she said my son was living in the apartment, which was not true at all. I have actually been fighting that with the court now. Even though this was towards the time my apartment had flooded, my landlord still did not give us the extension, knowing that we had to repack a lot of boxes because they got ruined.
Can I interrupt just for a minute, right here? Ma'am?
I'm sorry?
I've already extended 1 minute, and we're going to do,
sorry.
no, it's okay. We're going to do 1 more minute, because we want to hear this, but we're just going to go 1 more minute, okay?
Okay.
So just let's add 1 more, please.
Was I? We were in the packing stages when this had all happened. It is not fair that though all of this, my landlord has not been accountable for all of the stress that I had to deal with because of their lack of care. I now am not alone. We need legislation that, hold landlords accountable. I'm asking you as a city councilman to pass the rental inspection law that will hold landlords accountable and protect many tenants like my family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Janessa Stick. Then Mark Green.
Good evening, councilmen and citizens. I'm a freelance costume designer for theater film and have 10-plus years of professional experience in the Seattle-Tacoma area. Currently, I represent 90 artists that were given a job this year by Centerstage and Federal Way. That's 55 performers and 35 theater artisans of multiple different kinds. I've been involved with Centerstage for 3 years, and I've seen them grow leaps and bounds, mostly just in the past 2 since Angela and Trista have come aboard. In my 10 years as a costume designer in this area, I've seen theater after theater company close because they've lost their space or their funding. As a theater artist living in this region where the cost of living seems to do nothing but climb, it's becoming increasingly difficult to make a living and make ends meet. Without theaters like Centerstage, it will become nearly impossible. And just the past, I already said that, sorry. So not only in supporting current adults who are artisans in this field, thinking forward to our future, not only would supporting the continuation of contract with Centerstage allow for students to have further opportunities in performance. But this year, in my department alone, we brought in students as volunteers, as I understand is a requirement in your area for high schools. So we brought those lovely ladies in to help me organize the costume department. And next year, we're in the development stages of creating a mentorship program so that young artisans who prefer not to be on stage but still want to be involved in theater can start learning how to do some of the behind-the-scenes parts of our world. On a personal note, I came from a small town in central Illinois, much like Federal Way. My sophomore year in high school, our arts funding was cut, and I had to continue growing as a young adult, trying to find my way in this world without a compass, because the area that I loved, that I was born to work in, was not open to me. When I got to college, I was lost, and luckily found my theater department. But I beg you, please do not do that to these wonderful children that I've had the immense pleasure of working with this year. And finally, our area of the nation is known as the starting point for many things, whether it be grunge or architecture or Broadway musicals. But where will those movements start if we don't give art a place to grow?
Thank you, Jess. Mark Green, and then Taylor Davis, and then Dustin Traber.
In last meeting's council meeting that was partly about preserving city order, there was no mention of Bible schools or the role of religion in the establishment of personal character. No mention of teaching ethics in the public elementary and high schools, and that could be done completely within focus of separation of church and state concerns. And no mention of parental or individual responsibility. At the State House in Olympia, they are trumpeting their horns, holding festive bill signing celebrations, and making great waves about their plans for more strangers to take care of our kids, all which goes by the name of quote, unquote, child care. Call me crazy, but I don't think the state should be using more taxpayer money to put children in the care of non-parental daycare centers, when the policy should be doing a better job in helping parents be the ones training and rearing their own children 24/7. Furthermore, the state doesn't have any business in trying to mandate that parents put their children in institutional education if they prefer homeschooling instead, nor does the state have any business in mandating compulsory education at an earlier age than the traditional custom of first grade or 6 years old. You see, in society, culture counts, and the more we rely on the wisdom of the common man and his traditional customs and sensibilities, the better off we'll be, as opposed to the globalist, radical, left-wing intelligentsia and overlords who demand compulsory institutionalized preschool barely after a baby can walk, and whose ideals, if left alone and unchallenged, would have our traditions falling within a generation. But if we're undaunted, we can renew the American century. Culture counts, especially when it pertains to our natural rights, and those rights are more important than state statutes or even the Constitution. And also that means parents are sacrosanct when it comes to the raising of their own children, with rare exception. So help us God. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Taylor Davis, and then Dustin Traber.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you for listening to the voices of your community. It's really important. I was going to say a lot of things. I wrote a big letter, and it's in your box. But when I was in line, a woman came up to me and said, you speaking? And I said, yeah. She goes, can you tell them that we drive from Bonnie Lake to come see shows at Federal Way? I said, I'll be sure to tell them that. I mean, I could talk to you a lot about how Centerstage has enriched my life personally, or enriched the lives of countless children who see the holiday panto every year with their families and bring families together. I could talk to you about the youth who all stood up and told you how important it is, but I'm gonna actually talk to you about money. I'm a theater professional. I'm a professional actor, director, artistic director in the Seattle Community Theater. I want to talk a little bit about the revenue that you feel that you would get from the space. If you are thinking that charging $1,000, $2,000 for a 9-hour rental, which is an evening performance, I promise you, you're going to have an empty space. Nobody can afford it. Theater performers, theater groups, they can't afford it. Every theater, there's been 3 major theaters who've closed in the last year because their space is too expensive. And I do understand the desire to have that theatrical space. It's a great space. It's a beautiful space. But it's not going to matter if you can't rent it. And I really applaud those people who mentioned, do you have hard evidence that you're going to be able to rent this space? We know how important this theater is to all these people who came out here tonight. We know that. That is solid. But can you fill those seats? Can you get renters? We had a church in here, but the city raised the rent so much that they couldn't afford it. They were renting it out, and nobody's been back since. Nobody can afford the rates that you guys want to charge. That's why I applaud Trista for saying, hey, let's be to the table. Let's talk. Because the arts community, we don't have a lot of money, but we bring so much more than that to your community. Businesses, when people come and see shows at Federal Way, restaurants, coffee shops, theater patrons come and visit all of the community and enrich the businesses. If you can't fill the seats, if you can't rent it, nobody's going to come down and enrich the city of Federal Way. They're not going to buy the coffee. They're not going to go to the restaurants. They're not going to give back to the community fiscally. When you charge too much for people to be able to rent the space, you lose everything. I applaud your listening to us tonight. Thank you so much.
Dustin Traber.
Hello, I'm also here speaking on behalf of Centerstage. I work at Centerstage, but I also have a background in political science. I'd like to speak about what it means to have the arts in a community. Let's talk money, first of all. A 2015 study from Americans for the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study 5, indicates that an attendee at a theater event, on top of whatever they're spending on the ticket itself, spends $31.47 in that community. That's food, that's getting there, that's childcare, that's a lot. And people who are coming from outside of a county, this study surveyed people based on their zip codes, they're likely to spend about $47.57 on a night of theater, on top of that ticket. Let's talk a little bit more about what it means to have, what it indicates for a community to have arts in it. A Nobel laureate in the sciences, 17 times likelier to also engage in the arts in some way than scientists who are not. High school students who spend 4 years of study in the arts rather than half a year have 100-point higher SAT scores. And community and theater allows an audience to have an experience. We receive a lot of our entertainment these days from screens, and a lot of that is very good. But it's not the same as being in a room with people and being spoken to people in that room. You hear things together, you laugh at things together. And studies indicate, audience survey responses, that people feel connected to one another when they laugh together, even if they had no contact with those people beforehand. Studies also indicate, audience responses, that people feel connection to people who they otherwise don't have things in common with, based on the kind of stories that are being told. But comedies and musicals, the sort of things that we do a lot of at Centerstage, those also strengthen the bonds between people, the generational bonds, people coming to these shows. It's a real asset. Yes. Thank you very much for hearing us this evening. Thank you.
Sheila Cristiana, Sonetta Hunter, Michael Hunter, Dennis Stiles, David Madari, or Choco. Sheila?
Wow. I got the email this afternoon about Centerstage, and here I am, and everything I was going to talk about has already been talked about. I couldn't do near as good a job as everybody else did. So I thought I'd tell you about my experience with Centerstage. I started volunteering there in 2007 with the Aladdin pantomime. If you haven't seen one of their pantos, then you've missed out on a lot. And I saw it a lot of times because I volunteered for every performance. By the time that panto was done, I knew half of it by heart. I continued volunteering for many years, and eventually my friend Mary Sawyer, who made me talk tonight, and I ended up co-house managers. And we worked very hard. We were there for every performance, but we didn't get to see every performance. It's a little different when you have to do, the harder work. But it was a joy. It really was. It made my life. And if I hadn't had surgery and complications due to surgery, I would continue volunteering there for the rest of my life, assuming it would be there for the rest of my life. It devastates me to think that it might not be there for my children or my visiting relatives. I took my brother to one of the pantos, and he passed away this last February. And I'll never forget his face as he was watching it. And this man is not a child, but he loved that so much, and he talked about it a lot. And it would just be sad if we had to close this down. I really wish I'd started volunteering there sooner, as I've been around Federal Way for the past, 52 years. But, you know, what they have, I think every one of you should at least see one of their performances before you vote, because you will not experience anything like this. I have been to theaters, heck, I've even been to a theater in Omaha, and it wasn't like our theater. I mean, it was much grander, but we had to sit so far back we couldn't see. And every seat in the Knutson Family Theater is a good seat. So you can't get a bad seat, and you have a great view of the stage. And I just recommend you see what they're doing before you vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. Sonetta Hunter.
Good evening once again, members of the council. Thank you for this opportunity to address you once again. We also want to thank our supporters again for coming out tonight. We appreciate that, and go Center Stage, my goodness. We are basically here tonight just to say that our family, the Hunter family, is not adversaries to the city of Federal Way. We filed a lawsuit against the police department because we had to, not because we wanted to. Commander Casey Jones told me that there was nothing going to be done about my son being choked by Officer Chris Durrell for standing in the parking lot at his car. He told me there would be no investigation and there would be nothing done about it. And I didn't believe that to be true. So we're here again to say we're not your adversaries. We are here hopefully to save the taxpayers of Federal Way some money. This officer has already cost the city over $300,000 in lawsuits for the last person he shot that was unarmed. And we are here. We're not here telling you something that you don't already know. There is a history here of excessive use of force, and not by just him, and not just for my son. There's a problem in the department that needs to be addressed. And again, we're not here because we're interested in trial. We're interested in change. There needs to be some accountability here for officers who are behaving badly. I believe these officers are an exception, but they still need to be addressed. They still need to be dealt with. And so that's what we're here to ask you for. We want to work with the city, not against the city, and hopefully bring in some change so somebody else's child, somebody else's mother isn't standing here with this story or worse. The judge in our case has asked us to negotiate, and that's what we want to do. Yet we're told that the city doesn't want to talk to us, and we want to know why. All independent witnesses to the incident that occurred between my son and his friend, every independent witness has said the young men were not trespassing, including the store clerk. They have said that they were not obstructing, including a private investigator who was on scene. And the council doesn't want to talk to us, and we want to know why. Again, we're not interested in trial, we're interested in change. And so we're going to continue to pray that your hearts return and do the right thing, not only by my son, but by all the citizens of Federal Way who deserve it. Thank you.
Michael Hunter.
I thought a unique term was when you said the soul of our city. Another aspect of that is the soul of the city would be the integrity of leadership. And when leadership becomes a renegade and says, I don't have control of myself, he said that he does not have control of himself, that people make him do what he does. That's public information. And he's training other officers to do what he does. Integrity of leadership, that's the soul of this city. That's the soul. And so let that change. Come on, do something about it. Don't let leadership make you look bad, because you know what? When he choked my son, you choked my son because you're his boss. And so if I came to you and said, why'd you choke my son? Tell me about it. And then it's like dad says, go talk this out. And one of the kids say, nah, we ain't going to talk about it. What we're going to do is we're going to hope that we'll go to court with this thing, and hopefully the jury won't understand this thing, and that they will vote against this, and they will say that Federal Way is exempt from this, and the hunters can walk down the street with their tails tucked between their legs, and we are the winners. No, you're the losers because of the simple fact that you didn't address leadership and tell leadership, stop being abusive. And we deal with domestic violence in our community. We need to stop it at leadership first. You can't handle domestic violence in your communities if you let leadership be the violators.
All right, thank you. Actually, Ryan, can you, they've been talking about a lawsuit against the city. Can you give the community just an update about where we're at with this litigation in federal court?
Sure. We've been litigating this case for quite some time. Clearly, the city does not agree with the characterizations that are being made tonight. I understand that it's heartfelt from the hunters, but that is not what we believe the facts show. We've won summary judgment on the lawfulness of the arrest in this case, and so we are going to litigate the use of force in this case at trial. So that's where we're at right now. It's scheduled for trial in July. So that's where we're at.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, Dennis Stiles.
How you guys doing, Mayor, council members? Every time I come here, I always have something I want to say, and then when I get here, it's like a whole bunch of other stuff that just pop up. So I'll just jump right in. I came here the last time. We did a show at Centerstage just this past Saturday, and it was a phenomenal experience. We were looking to partnership with them further and create a bigger partnership and get involved with the community, with the kids. And I was sad to find out that, their contract was up, and I was like, man, we just got in and started to try to make leadway because, we didn't know it was there, and it's a beautiful facility. And we actually went to the new facility, and it just was too expensive. And when we went to Centerstage, they welcomed us with open arms. It just was, Angela assured us that no matter what, that it was going to go through and we were going to be able to put on a good show, and we did. So we thought that we were going to create a partnership, and then now, their contract's up. So it's like, man, as soon as we get leeway in something, then something else comes up. And like a lot of the citizens said, the money is probably there from somewhere. I was here at the last meeting. They were talking about the budget, and I asked maybe somebody could explain how this works and the different buckets and what can't be used for what and all this other stuff, right? But the way I look at it, just from a business standpoint, is we have to do something. So if it's in the law that says that you can't do this or whatever, now we have to come up to sit to the table and figure out how we can move forward. But just like the last speaker that got up here, is crazy because as much as I got up here to speak about Centerstage, like, man, the way that I've been treated with the police department, it wasn't the best. And I've gotten pulled over, sitting in the back seat. The officer says, put both of your hands on the window. Both of my hands are on the window, but yet and still his hand is still on his gun. And I said, sir, both of my hands are on the window. There's nobody else in the car in the back seat. Why is your hand still on your gun? I'm scared for my life, like literally. I want to make it to Centerstage to be able to put on these performances and things of this nature. But we have an issue that's going on, man. We have a drug epidemic. We have a homeless situation. I was at Safeway this earlier today, and there was a shoplifter, and the lady gets on the phone, and she answers the question. There was no description. It was whether he was white or he was black, and she said he's Caucasian. She didn't say that he had on this type of attire or nothing. It was what race was he. So are you trying to figure out if you're gonna use rubber bullets or real bullets, or what is what is the reasoning for that questioning? But like I said, as I'm over at Sahali and we're getting rocks thrown at us by a homeless person telling us, using the N-word, go home or whatever, and the police never came, and we're like, you know, we hired new officers, but is it helping us? So if you could take some of that money, if 40% of the budget is officers and it's not helping us, man, why not give it to Centerstage? You helping kids, you're doing a lot, you see what I'm saying, for the community. So are you gonna catch them before they get to this? I'm opening up a barber school next month. The kids that got shot at the aquatic center, every day they ask me, Mr. Stiles, when you open up your barber school? I felt bad, because I was like, well, maybe if I had the school, maybe they wouldn't be out there doing their thing. So maybe if this Centerstage stays open, maybe some of these kids will get off the streets and we catch them before they get to where the police have to handle them. You see what I'm saying? So
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
David Choco Madani. David? Then Nicholas Roycroft.
Lamont already covered what I said.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Nicholas Roycroft. And then Irza Idosa after that.
All right, well, hello. This is my first time ever speaking in front of a group of people like this and in front of a city council, so thank you for this opportunity. I am a senior at Pacific Lutheran University, and I am graduating in May with a BFA in theater. And I came to Centerstage in December of 2017, and I didn't realize what I was walking into, and that happened to be opportunity. That happened to be a place that was filled with compassion and professionalism that I never expected, because up until that point, I only had collegiate theater experience, and that's an interesting experience to say the least. I think ultimately I don't have a lot of different words that have already been said. I'm kind of just an echo, but I think that further reflects how important Centerstage is to this community. For me personally, I've moved 13 times in my life due to a military upbringing, and I'm in consideration for a 14th move to Federal Way because of Centerstage, because I want to continue working there, because I want to continue watching the community engagement that is happening there and the further successes, and I'm excited about that, and I want to continue being excited about that. I want to continue seeing this happen because it's important. It's important for theater, for the arts, for the community of Federal Way, for everyone involved. Tristan and Angela are two of the hardest working, most exhausted people I have ever met, and yet they still give their full, and they still give the energy of 24 people. Running a theater successfully is immense work. I'm taking theater management right now at PLU and learning all about this, and it is mind-blowing, but it's exciting, and it's something that I want to do with my life, as many others do, as you have seen from everyone here that have spoken about it today. I think for me, I want to end with the Centerstage mission statement. Centerstage produces quality theater that entertains and culturally enriches South Sound audiences of all ages, believing that theater should uplift the human spirit. And I don't want to see that human spirit dissipate. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tirza Idahosa. I'm a PCO here in the 30th District, Precinct Community Officer. I'm also the founder of an organization called Democrats for Diversity and Inclusion. We train citizens how to go from a precinct community officer all the way up to the President of the United States. We teach you how to get involved in your legislation. I'm a product of my organization. I am exploring running for a Senate seat here in the 30th District, Federal Way, because of the things that I've seen in Federal Way since I've been here and just in government in general. One of the things that people continue to talk to me about, two things are housing in Federal Way and the police department. Sonetta Hunter is my family member. Her son is my nephew. And so I know what happened to him. I'm a former correction officer. These things are not happening by accident. And as the city attorney, for you to say the things that you've said, that you guys accept those things, you cannot choke out somebody who has done nothing, hold them in jail, and then for a year or so where they can't work, they can't do anything, and then all you want to do at the end of the day is say, no charges are being pressed, nothing is being filed, all charges are dropped, and all you want to say is, thank you, have a good day. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable. I respect you guys. I work with you a lot. You know, Mayor, I love you. I work with you. I respect what you do in the community and the rest of the council members. But we have to choose to be different. Federal Way is it is over 48% minorities here in this city now. It has changed. We cannot just do business as usual. We have to be sensitive to cultural diversity. We cannot continue to use diversity and inclusion as buzzwords. We cannot. We are more alike than we are different. If it was your child, you would not want somebody to say, all that this young man has gone through, that he walks away with nothing. It's unacceptable. We cannot continue to support our police officers when they're wrong. We cannot. We just can't do it. One of the things that I'm saying that we also have to choose to change is that take a book from Starbucks president. Unlike United Airlines, when they choked out a man and drug him off the plane, Starbucks had two black people that were in their Starbucks drinking coffee. Because they were waiting for somebody, the people harassed them and wanted them to leave. The police came in and arrested the two people, took them out. And Starbucks president got on moments later. The lady quit because she knew she was going to be fired. So she quit. But Starbucks said, this is unacceptable in any Starbucks. We will not support that. Not only that, he put his money where his mouth is. He said on May 29th that not one Starbucks will be open in the United States. Not one. They are closing to make sure that all of their people take diversity and cultural awareness training. Federal Way, we've got to do better. We've got to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Debrianna Jackson Gandy, and then Susan Vargo.
It's Debrianna Jackson Gandy. I have an exotic name. Well, good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. I'm here in support of the Hunter family. I actually thought I was going to be able to defer my 3 minutes to them and didn't expect to be up here using my 3. But a couple things I wanted to mention about this case with Josiah Hunter. It happened nearly 4 years ago, and all of the charges were dropped. However, they were not cleared from his record, which is unacceptable 4 years later. So when employers do background checks, that continues to show up. He has to carry documentation to show that those charges have been cleared. So I encourage you to expedite this process to explore what would be necessary to make him whole in terms of lost wages, emotional and psychological stress from being accosted and assaulted in a parking lot when he was doing nothing to incite that kind of response. And I would just ask you to expedite this, and at the very least, as soon as possible, to get this cleared from his record since charges have been dismissed. So thank you so much for your time, and I trust that you all will do the right thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Debrianna. Suzanne Vargo.
She had a big name. I thought it was a couple people before me. How about that? Good afternoon. Good evening, council, mayor, citizens. The Knutson Centerstage, Camp Kilworth, Weyerhaeuser Campus, Star Lake Inn, Brook Lake Inn, the Conservancy Lands, and Spring Valley. Oh, and of course, the West High Labos. These are all historic places in our fine city, and they are a huge part of our history. It has been said our city has always been a place where we live, but we do not invest. And I believe this is a major problem in our city, and it is why we have not been able to overcome this stigma. All of the areas I just mentioned are a huge part of our history, and it is our history that connects us as we move into the future. Our youth deserve to live in a city that values its history, They deserve to know about their city and its history, how it got to be where we are now. They deserve every experience we can offer them. When our kids take the value of open spaces, sensitive areas, outdoor theaters, environmental education, it stays with them. They will take pride in their city, brag to others, and they will raise their children to stay in the city and to do the same. This is how we solidify our community. We must give our youth every opportunity to succeed so they can become their very best, and equally important, become a vital part of our city. It all starts with our youth. I was raised in Federal Way. I've lived here for over 45 years. This is why I fight for the Weyerhaeuser campus. I'm also a board member for the Historical Society. I am invested into the city, and it is my soul. I feel the city is disregarding the importance of our history and how it brings us all together. I urge you, please do everything in your power to protect our special places, historic places, and sensitive areas that feed our youth. It is your responsibility to provide quality of life for our children so that they can thrive to the fullest. We don't need our children becoming the next generation of homeless and criminals. The experiences we provide to our kids in these places are life-changing. Let's change their lives, their souls, for the better. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Suzanne. Okay, we've got 3 written comments, and after one of them, I want to give an update on it. So please go ahead.
First one's from Gary Taylor. It reads, "The Centerstage Theater is doing a wonderful job of bringing high-quality cultural events to the city while also reaching out to the youth of Federal Way through high school apprenticeship, experiential training, as well as drawing into its programs people of color from the community. The new artistic manager of Centerstage Theater is accomplished professional and forward-thinking and should at least be allowed a run-in period of 2 to 5 years to have a fair chance at developing the programs and values that she has envisioned." Gary Taylor. Next one is from Lori Seacrest. It reads, "Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council members, neighbors, and citizens of Federal Way. My name is Lori Seacrest, President of the Save Weyerhaeuser Campus Organization. I submit this letter to be read by the City Clerk since I will be out of town and unable to attend tonight's meeting. During tonight's consent agenda, item C, you will hear a resolution for the authorization to apply for the Washington Wildlife and Recreation Program grant funding. I write this letter in support of this authorization and to encourage the City Council to approve this item. As you know, Forterra has partnered with the key stakeholders, such as the City of Federal Way and Save Weyerhaeuser Campus, to help preserve, protect, and to maintain the unique character of the former Weyerhaeuser Campus. They have submitted the written application. The Public Works Department has reviewed it and was passed unanimously by the Land Use Transportation Committee on April 2nd to move to tonight's consent agenda. The grant is for $4 million, which will match the $2 million already secured by the King County CFT and the city's Surface Water Management Fund, as well as the pending $1 million in additional CFT funds for which the city applied last month. The Washington Wildlife and Recreation Grant helps protect wildlife habitat in or near cities or urban growth areas via land acquisition. The program provides funding for a broad range of land protection and outdoor recreation, including park acquisition and development, forest land preservation, and construction of outdoor recreation facilities. The Washington Wildlife and Recreation Program was envisioned as a way for the state to accomplish 2 goals: acquire valuable recreation and habitat lands before they are lost to other uses and development, recreation for a growing population. By your approval of this grant application, you will also be accomplishing these same 2 goals by assisting the City of Federal Way's open space and recreation requirements for its growing population, and more importantly, helping to protect an impending habitat lost from the potential IRG development on the former Weyerhaeuser land. This application is just another step forward in the efforts to fund the financial means necessary to support the conservation efforts on the former Weyerhaeuser property. Vibrant urban cities thrive only when there are open spaces, protected watersheds, and natural habitats for the community to enjoy. The 54 acres on the longest undeveloped shoreline in the Puget Sound region, with its trails, a healthy old-growth forest, and stone's throw to the world-renowned Rhododendron Species Foundation Garden, Bonsai Museum, and the city core, truly is the area that the city needs to ensure is protected, preserved, and maintained to honor the unique character that the former Weyerhaeuser campus has provided the citizens of Federal for nearly 50 years. On behalf of the Save Weyerhaeuser campus, I thank you in advance for your support of initiatives such as this grant application, which will bring our conservation efforts one step closer to our mission of protecting North Lake's west shoreline, watershed, and wildlife habitat, preserving the forests, meadows, and trails with public access to them. Together, Forterra and the Public Works Department, with the help of our Save Weyerhaeuser campus experts, have done their job. Now it's up to you to do yours. Respectfully submitted, Lori Seacrest, Save Weyerhaeuser campus president. Public comment for Dana Holloway. My name is Dana Holloway, and I'm unable to attend tonight's city council meeting, and have asked the following be read for me regarding consent agenda 5G, City Center Streetlight Banners Bid Award. Previously, I sent emails to LUTC members and also spoke at the April 2nd LUTC meeting against the city spending $59,180 on City Center streetlight banners. LUTC voted to reject bids and forward to the April 17th city council meeting. It is now consent agenda item 5G. The city said it's in an $854,000 annual budget shortfall for 18 and on. The mayor and 5 of the 7 city council members deemed the fix for this was implementing a 7.75 utility tax on water and sewer, knowing Lake Haven would pass this tax on to their Federal customers. Effective immediately, the city council members and mayor need to question every expenditure that comes before them to determine if it's really required. Is it a necessity for the running of the city? I asked Deputy Public Works Director, Street Systems Manager Desiree Winkler, what is the purpose or function of the banners? Ms. Winkler's reply was beautification. In addition, the city places hanging flower baskets and USA flags on the streetlight poles in the same area of City Center. When the city is in a shortfall budget, needing to find stable revenue streams such as implementing new taxes, I question whether spending over $59,000 for streetlight banners whose sole purpose and function is beautification of the city core is a necessity for running the city, and I believe other residents would agree with me. The banner expenditures would come out of the Street Systems Division budget, general fund, which provides street improvements and maintenance functions. I would submit there are more important uses for the $59,000. By rejecting the bid award, the money not spent for streetlight banners will remain in the street systems budget. It's time the city council and mayor make fiscally responsible decisions regarding taxing and spending. I request the city council reject consent item 5G, City Center streetlight banners bid award, and not spend the money on banners. Respectfully submitted, Dana Holloway.
And that was the clarification, actually, item G, and I know it's going to be pulled for separate consideration, but just to make sure for those folks, we got the email on Saturday evening from Ms. Holloway. I got back to her on Sunday via email. She's probably likely, obviously, out of town. Item G, which will be explained in just a few minutes, is the reflection of the committee. Actually, let me just turn this over to the chairman of that committee, Councilmember Chairman Copang.
Well, I tell you, I think that what we looked at really was, is this essential? I think we look at expenditures being essential or non-essential, strategic or non-strategic, and I think this certainly failed the test of being essential. And I think there could be a little bit of an argument for strategic. That's why, or we wouldn't ever do it. But as far as meeting that the highest level of need for our city right now, I think that especially because these were going to, the banners were going to come out of the general fund, which is where the shortage is right now. I thought it was prudent for the LUTC to recommend us not approve that, and we forward that recommendation on to the council for full consideration as well. So,
and that's actually what's on the consent agenda. The consent agenda is to reject those bids. Just want to make sure it's very clear for everybody. And I sent that email to Dana. I'm sure she just is out of town and didn't receive that yet. Okay, Deputy Mayor, do you have a motion regarding the time of the meeting? Right now, it's about 10 minutes to 10, pursuant to council rule.
I was just thinking that I'd like to move that we extend the meeting past 10 p.m. tonight.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to extend the meeting past 10 p.m.? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm not sure what we would do if it fails, but yeah, go home. Exactly. All right. I just want to say on behalf of everybody, for everybody before you leave, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. Your input. We work for you, and we're really, everybody here cares what everybody thought tonight, and it was so important. This is the most important thing we do at your meeting. It's not a council meeting, it's the public meeting to discuss public business. So while we disagree about issues, what we can all agree on is your voice matters, and it was heard tonight. Thank you. Consent agenda. These items have gone through committee, and I'll go ahead and read each one of them, and I'll ask whether a council member would want an individual item pulled for separate consideration. Item A are the minutes for the April 3rd, 2018 regular and special meeting minutes. Item B is the demolition of structures at 36818 8th Avenue South project acceptance. Item C, authorization to apply for WWRP grant funding. Item D, memorandum of understanding for a surface water easement and funding for the South 336th Street Water Quality Facility at Highway 99. Item E, Marine Hill Stormwater Conveyance System Repair Phase 2 project acceptance. Item F, King County Historic Preservation ILA interlocal agreement. Item G, City Center Street Light Banners bid award, and obviously that is a reject. In the future, I think we just need to make sure that that item would say rejection. All right, council, are there any items that we would want pulled for separate consideration? Deputy Mayor Honda?
I'd like to pull item G, but I understand, Councilmember.
Councilmember Copan?
I think E and G.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. At the request of both the Deputy Mayor and Councilmember Copang, items E and G. Council, any other items pulled for separate consideration? And it was E and G? Okay. All right. Is there a motion, Deputy Mayor Honda, with the balance of the items?
I move approval of items A, B, C, D, and F.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for those stated items. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those matters pass. Item E, a Marine Hill Stormwater Conveyance System Repair Phase 2 project's acceptance. Is that, who would, Councilmember
Yes.
Copang?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Again, I don't want to take too long here, but I think that in the midst of all the discussions about budget, when the staff is doing a great job, I think it needs to be recognized. And we had a bid. The neighborhood of Marine Hills has got, it's one of our older neighborhoods in the city, and the pipes, the sewer pipes do degrade, the stormwater runoff pipes do degrade, and this is actually stormwater runoff that we're talking about here. And so the project has been in the past to go through the neighborhood, tear up the roads, put in new pipes, and it's an expensive process, it's very disruptive, and it just takes a lot of time. Well, the surface water management team, the swim team as we call them, they basically came up with, they looked at different ways to do the same job and came up with what's called a cured-in-place pipe. And just to show you what that is here, I basically grabbed a piece of one of the rejected pipes that had been cut out. And basically, it's hard. It basically goes on the inside of the pipe. It basically lines the pipe and gives us, extends the useful life of the pipes that are already in the ground, allowing the Marine Hills neighborhood to be redone, have the stormwater runoff handled very effectively for years to come. And the great news is it was budgeted based on the current costs to do the same job. Well, this innovation basically saved the city $475,000 or $457,000, which is a great savings, certainly. That money will go back into the swim account, though. It does not go into general funds. Just want to make sure that's perfectly clear. Again, we have buckets, and this is a big bucket. Surface water management is a big bucket. It's very vital to our cities, being able to effectively manage surface water. But again, $457,000 was saved because of innovation, and the staff doing the job that they're hired to do is to look at new ways to do things. So I wanted to express publicly my appreciation. I certainly did in LETC, but I think this deserves the wider audience of the council meeting to really make that clear. I've noticed continually in my service on LETC that the Public Works swim team as a whole are always looking for ways to save money and make sure that we are doing things as cost effectively as possible, and I just appreciate that. So with that being said, I would like to make a motion unless there's anybody else who wants to comment.
Council, any other comments? No, go ahead, please.
You know, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I do have to recognize our chairman for LTAC for recognizing that and sharing that to us, because I know that sometimes we don't get a chance to go to those committee meetings and hear those things. And so I appreciate that, and of course, a shout out to our staff for the innovation and for your continued dedication and commitment to looking at solving our issues, and so I want to jump on that train, Mr. Chairman, and just say thank you to the staff.
Okay.
All right. I would move approval of final acceptance of the Marine Hill Stormwater Conveyance System Repair Phase 2 project constructed by Instaform Technologies LLC in the amount of $788,673.40 as complete.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item G, City Center Street Light Banners Bid Award.
You want to talk about this one?
Thank you. You know, that reminds me of a cast. I've been looking at it all night. It looks like a cast.
That's what
It
it
does,
is.
yeah.
It is. It's a cast for the
Yeah.
pipes. So I pulled this item because I'd like to ask, I wasn't at the meeting, I was traveling that night, so I couldn't be at land use, but as I've gone through different cities, there are banners in different cities, and several cities have sponsored at the end of the banner by a business. Did we look at seeing if businesses would sponsor banners to have here in the city?
How much do the banners cost?
We'll ask.
It was 59, actually, it was $59,000 for all the banners.
For all.
150 of them, right?
Well, go ahead, Marwan.
For the benefit of the audience, my name is Marwan Saloom, Public Works Director for the city. The cost for each banner, the bid that we have received, including tax, about $370 per banner. The proposal was to purchase 160 banner. That will be a total cost of $58,000. Now, the reason we are replacing all of the banner, and I'll give you a little bit of history. In 2003, we purchased banner for the city center area, but those banners have a lifespan of 3 to 4 years. So in 2003, we purchased the banner. In 2006, we start replacing about 30 of them at a time. So we have some kind of a cycle. So we replaced them in 2006, 2007. We did not have the budget for 2008, 9, and 10, and they were getting in really bad shape. In 2014, we purchased another 30 banners, and we have not purchased any since then. The banner last year having all kind of problem, ripping in the middle during any windstorm. So the recommendation to the mayor was for us to replace all of the banner, not to use whatever left over, because they really aged to the point that it does not make sense from a safety perspective to put them up. As to having a sponsor, the banner, as we purchased those banner, they have the capability to have a tail banner on the bottom. But we really have not approached the idea of having somebody buy the banner and put some advertisement on the bottom. It's an idea that the council could entertain, but it was not pursued in the past. The tail banner was additional event that we may have, that we could put a tail banner on those banner, and we did it about 2 years in a row, but we have not done it since.
It would be something that perhaps we could think about. The banners do bring some interest to the city. We are going to have a lot of visitors in the city this summer, and if we could support our businesses and advertise our businesses, as well as providing some beautification for the city, it might be worth looking into.
Okay, I'll talk to, that's kind of an economic development, that's more of a Tim Johnson, discussion. It's always important to make sure we are, as the regulating authority, we have to be careful about turning around and asking for money. So let me think about how that, and I'll talk with legal counsel about that. I want to make sure we do everything appropriate there, obviously.
And perhaps other cities that we've seen this in, we could see how they've handled it.
Where have you seen it again?
Oh, gosh, I just saw it today. Where was I today? I was in SeaTac today.
And CTEC has it?
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yarden, can we remember to look into the CTAC issue and about corporate sponsorship of banners? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I want to take care of that right now so it doesn't fall through the cracks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did you have anything else?
I just wanted to say something real quick.
Oh, yeah.
I think I don't think anybody on the council is really anti-banner. I think really when it comes down to it, we want a city to be beautiful. We want to
Yeah.
be able to create a special experience for people coming in the city, living in the city, enjoying the city. I think that really the real issue for us was on LETC was that this was general fund money, which is exactly where we need revenue to be captured. So I think if we can come up with another way to pay for banners, I'd entertain that. So I think that's important for the city to understand. We're going to look at other ways to, we'll certainly look at other ways to do things, but relying on the general fund for everything that we do is not as easy as it's been in the past. So I think that's really why we're here where we are right now, so.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion?
Yes, I move that we go along with the consent agenda of item G, city center streetlight banners.
All right.
To reject all bids for the city streetlight banners.
All right. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Johnson, or are you just getting ready for the vote?
Just getting ready.
All right. You're a little quick on the draw there. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. All right, council business, 21st Avenue South pedestrian connection. This is the South 14th Street to South 216th Street downtown staircase. First, we'll have a report from Christine Mullen, Street Systems Project Engineer, and then we'll move from there. I think, just to make sure we kind of cut to the chase, I think we're going to be kind of looking at the same thing we did just a few moments ago with item G. But Christine?
All right, good evening. I'm Christine Mullen, Street Systems Project Engineer for the city. I'm here tonight to discuss the 21st Avenue South pedestrian connection project, which runs from South 314th to South 316th, also known as the Grand Staircase or the Downtown Staircase. And tonight we're here to discuss the rejection of the bids and approval to rebid the project. This here is just a brief schematic of what the project looks like. The question before you tonight is, should the council reject all bids for the 21st Avenue South pedestrian connection from South 314th to South 316th downtown staircase project and authorize staff to rebid the project? We opened 4 bids for the project last week on April 9th. The lowest bidder and the third lowest bidder were both deemed non-responsive because they did not include all of the required documents in with their bid proposal. All 4 bids received were in excess of the amount available for the project. The available funding for the project is shown here. We had $125,000 in budgeted city funds, lift funds from 2016, 17, and 18, which make up a little over $3 million, $60,000 in REIT funds, and a regional mobility grant for $500,000. So total available funding was $3,686,250. The estimated expenditures, $300,000 for design, right-of-way, $560,750. Construction costs based on the lowest responsive bid, just over $2.8 million, 10% contingency for that, and then $125,000 for in-house construction management, for total project costs of $4,146,577. So based on that lowest responsive bid, there's a shortfall of $460,000.
Christine, what was the deficiency again with the other bid?
There were 2 bids. They did not include their contractor registration and all of the required numbers, state excise tax numbers, UBI numbers, items like that.
So pretty technical.
It is pretty technical, and we talked with the legal department about whether or not that was something that we could deem just an irregularity. And it's their recommendation that they be deemed non-responsive.
We just can't do that. Right. That's just not right. Okay, thank you very much.
Setting precedents.
Correct. Thank you, Christine.
So the options for consideration tonight are, 1, to reject all bids for the 21st Avenue South pedestrian connection, South 314th Street to South 316th Street downtown staircase project, and direct staff to rebid the project and return to council for further action. And option number 2 is do not reject all bids for the 21st Avenue South pedestrian connection, 314th to 316th downtown staircase project, and provide direction to staff. And the mayor's recommendation was for approval of option 1.
Yeah, to reject all bids. Councilmember And do you have your light on to talk to? Okay, so let's go this. Councilmember Duclos, then let's go back and forth. Councilmember Duclos, Councilmember Cephas-Dawson, then Councilmember Moore.
Yeah, I just want to know, you know, if we reject all these bids, are we going to be looking at a different form of a request when we go out for new bids, or are we going to use the same criteria?
Good question. Are we going to adjust things?
We would take a look at the project, do a little bit of value engineering, see if there's any of the scope that we could possibly cut out or reduce, simplify it in some ways to try to get the cost down before we took it out to rebid.
And would you go to different people when you put this out, or would you just go blanket again?
When we put it out, we advertise it in specific,
Okay.
like the Daily Journal and in the Federal Way Mirror. So then it's up to whichever contractors are qualified and interested in submitting a bid.
Would you spread that a little bit wider, maybe?
If there's other places that we could, then we would definitely try to get as many people.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Cephas-Dawson.
Yeah, thank you. One of the LIFT funds is from 2016. So is that in jeopardy by us moving, rejecting this and starting all over?
That's a great question, because that's something we spent some time talking about that last week. Marwan and Christine?
None of the fund in jeopardy at the present time. The only possibility for part of the fund to be in jeopardy, if we do not go to construction in 2018, then the lift fund that we have allocated for 2018 cannot be used because we have not spent any money in 2018. But we have the lift fund for 2019, and we don't have any projects scheduled within the downtown area for 2019. So therefore, that fund could be used to replace it. But since we're going to be going out to bid in 2018, which our plan is to go out to bid in July, after we do some value engineering on the project, then the fund will still be utilized to fund the project. So we are not going to be losing any funding of the project. The only challenge for us, if we go out to bid after we do the value engineering and modify the design, and we are still higher than the available fund, then we will be coming back to the council with a recommendation to award the bid and identify where that fund will be coming in to the project.
Okay, so the design is going to be slightly modified then, it sounds like.
That's what we're hoping to do, is modify the design a little bit, see if there is anything that we could do to reduce the cost of the project and take it back out to bid. And hopefully, as an example, the mayor highlighted it, we had a low bidder, and the low bidder, if you look at his number, is only about $277,000 higher than the budget. The only problem is non-responsive because he did not submit all of the material required, even though he had it. It's not something that he did not have. He just failed to submit it as part of his bid, which is a requirement of the bid. And therefore, the decision was to look at him as non-responsive bid and ignore his bid. But if we rebid it and he submit his bid again, I don't know if he's going to submit the exact number or he's going to refine his bid, we are looking about $277,000 shortfall rather than $460,000 shortfall. So you could see the difference, and by going out to rebid the project, potentially that number could be reduced.
Thank you.
And there's possible REAP money but we'll see. Obviously, the goal is to have it come in under bid next time. All right, Councilmember Moore, Councilmember Kopang, and then the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. You know, Marwan or Christine, has there been any review to see if there's an apprenticeship utilization aspect into this project? I'm kind of curious. It's a slightly random question, but I'm curious about that.
Could you repeat your question?
It's about apprenticeship utilization, just like
With
we did
this
with the PAC.
project, yeah. Is there?
On this particular project, I don't think we had a specific percentage that we mandated as part of the specification that the contractor must have. Most of our other projects, they've been coming in about 7 to 10% utilization because most of our projects are federally funded and there's a requirement to do that. So, but on this particular project, we did not have that as one of the conditions of the project.
So a follow-up to that question is, based on your experience, and I know you have a wealth of it to both of you guys, does that is that usually make the project more expensive or less expensive?
It all depends on the type of the project. I mean, if there is a lot of electrical work within the project, a lot of steel work, having an apprenticeship is normally, it's a saving. I don't think that's going to be more expensive. But the challenge is anytime you mandate it, anytime you make it into a requirement, you may have certain contractor where the method of operation for their business does not allow them or does not allow the utilization of apprenticeship. So therefore, they're going to add more money into the project to be able to justify bringing in some people who may not have all of the experience, but there is a type of work needed and available for them to do. On this project, the majority of the project is going to be excavation, removing of a wall, and construction of a lot of concrete. Apprenticeship does not really fit in, and that's the reason we felt that it does not make sense for us to make it into a requirement.
Okay, I'll probably have more follow-ups on the
Sure.
side, but thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Kopang?
Marwan and Christine, thank you for the presentation, and appreciate the fact that with some value engineering, we probably can come in a little bit lower, I think, as far as the requirements. Couple questions for you, though, on funding. If my memory serves, the first $500,000 that was spent on this in 2016 was actually for the acquisition of the property.
That's correct.
Okay, good. So that's not in jeopardy at this point. So really, we're looking at 17 and 18 as far as funding, and because we identified this as a project in 2017, that money carries over into 18 for us to, so we're in good shape at this point. The question I have is there a requirement, based on your understanding, for general fund expenditures in this project? So we could conceivably be able to find a way to move forward here where we utilize, with Valley Engineering, get the cost of the project down low enough. We could use the LIFT funding, the regional mobility grant from King County, and some REAP money to pay for this in its entirety.
That's correct.
That's a realistic possibility.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Our main objective and first objective is for us to be able to bring the project within budget.
Absolutely.
That's our first objective. Now, the sad story is that most of our project this year coming in higher than our estimate. And our estimate based on a certain inflation rate and the prices for 2017. That's how we come up with estimated cost. I think the market is saturated with a lot of activity, a lot of construction going on, and contractor is not as needing
motivated.
the work as they used to a couple of years past, and therefore right now I have 2 or 3 projects we bid, and all of them come in a little bit higher than the engineer estimate. So again, our objective is for us to do value engineering, see if we can find some fat within the project and cut him as much as we can, even though we have done that. And that's the reason in the bid, if you look at the bid tabulation, we had 2 alternate bids because we knew that we may not have the money to do those, and therefore we bid them separately. But even the base bid came in higher than the available budget. So anyway, what we might do, the same thing we did, take some of what we like to see within the staircase project and put it as an alternate bid, just to see what the market's going to be in July. And if we are still above the budget, we'll come back to you, and we will definitely not present general fund to be used because we don't have the general fund to use for this project. So there has to be some alternate source of funding, but I cannot identify it at the present time. Let us take a look at it, let us bid the project, and when we come back again to you and recommend awarding of the project, we'll find out where that money is going to be coming from.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Marwan. Thank you, Christine.
Deputy Mayor, and then Councilmember Tran.
Thank you. So I have 2 questions. One, if this comes back and we accept a bid in the future and it's constructed during the fall, season, which could be rainy, I know we haven't stopped the rain yet, but would that increase the cost because you're working with so much, removing so much dirt in the hillside if we're working in the rainy season?
I mean, the few things that's gonna potentially affect the cost, higher or lower. The ideal time to bid a project will be the first of the year, where nobody have a project to do, and everybody wanna program a project for their crew. So that will be the best time, and our past practice when we bid them as early as we can. Now, under ideal situation, I would have this project bid in February. Now, I was not able to do that. We were not able to finish the design till late March, and we took it out late March, and we opened bid last week, actually. The challenge is coming July. I don't know who's going to be bidding it. I don't know if they are freed up. They are not working on any other project, and if they are, we're going to get some good bid because they want to keep their crew working for the fall and for the winter. Now, to answer your question also, is that the ideal time to bid the project or the ideal time to construct the project? It's not the ideal time, but at the same time, if we were able to get it and we have a little bit of a dry fall, there's a lot of work could be done. The project may not be completed. Some of the plant may not be planted. Some of the landscaping may not be done, but the concrete work potentially could be done. And if it's not done, we will shut it down for a couple months and come back next spring and finish the project. That will be the downfall of doing the project or bidding the project during the summer.
Okay. And my second question is, at one time when this was first discussed, there was discussion that the hotel would put some money into it. I know that's not happening at this point. Is it possible that we could go to the hotel and ask that they reconsider and...
The amount of money that the hotel was going to put into the project was the traffic impact fee that they were going to pay the city. So in lieu of paying the traffic impact fee, they were going to contribute to this project. So by them not contributing to the project, they will be paying the traffic impact fee, and that traffic impact fee could be utilized for this project or any other project on our transportation improvement plan. So I think the money is there, that the hotelier is going to still pay into the project. It was not as direct as initially discussed, where they're going to give us the cash and we're going to waive the transportation impact fee. At the present time, they are not paying the cash up front, but they still have to pay the traffic impact fee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two questions. The first one is, how long will it take for your department to modify the design before go out for the rebid? Go ahead.
We are planning to do that within the next 2 months. For us to open bid in July, that means we have to take the project out to bid in June. So you have the month of May and part of June for us to do the value engineering that we are planning to do. So I would say a couple months, that's what we are planning to do at the present time. And staff, as soon as the council make the decision on rejecting the bid, will be going back and pulling our sleeve and trying to find a way to minimize the costs for that project.
Okay. My second question is there any potential funding out there that we can tap into except the general funds?
Oh, city fund, or you're talking about grants?
Grant, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We applied for the project for 2 different grants. One of them we were successful in acquiring, which is a $500,000 grant. And the other one we applied, I think, for a $500,000, but we were not successful in obtaining. The challenge, this project, even though it's a connectivity, even though it's a pedestrian connectivity, we have not been able to justify it where, even though it's in the downtown area, but we've been talking to many grant funding agencies and trying to market the project and trying to see the potential of us trying to get some additional fund, and we have not been successful to do that. So, I mean, we have a funding cycle going on right now, and we're going to be applying for almost $5 million worth of grant funding, but none of them fit into that project. And this is a challenge. It doesn't make sense for us to spend a lot of effort putting an application together where we know that we are not going to be successful in obtaining the money, because it takes a lot of resources from our staff to put those applications together.
Councilmember Duclos?
A couple of questions, Marwan. How much do these banners cost?
The banners,
Yeah.
the 160 banner, about $58,000.
Okay, but I mean, I'm just thinking, could we sell naming rights on the banners when they're put up? This banner paid for by Jeannie Duclos or something like that. to help offset the-
I like the idea. I don't know the legality of it, and if the city want to do it.
I don't know
that's,
the
you know.
legality
We're
either.
gonna, that's a
but-
great idea. We're
But
gonna
could we
look
look at that, because the Rotary Club and some of the other clubs might buy a couple?
We're gonna do
I
that.
would buy one,
Okay, we're going to do that.
yeah,
We're going to
okay.
check into it. I'm going to have, at the next council meeting, or at the clerk shall give a report, I'll have Yarden look into it. All right, thank you. Councilmember Kopang.
I have a motion.
Okay, please.
Listening to Marwan, it sounds like we need to hurry up and make a motion so you guys can get to work.
Thank you.
So, yeah. I move to reject all bids for the 21st Avenue Street, South Pedestrian Connection, South 314th Street to South 316th Street Downtown Staircase Project, and direct staff to rebid the project and return to council for further action.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes. Thank you very, Christine, great job. Thank you very much. And thank you, Marwan. All right, so, council reports. We'll start with Councilmember Duclos.
First of all, I want to apologize that I was not here for the youth rally last weekend because I was out of town. But I do want them to know that I do support them, and I want to make a comment that I have watched the youth rallies all across the country on TV, and I've listened to our youth when they talk in DC and at some of these other venues, and I have been so impressed with the quality of our youth and their depth of knowledge about what is going on and how they present themselves. And I am so inspired by them, and I hope they keep on going, and I hope they make it to the end, and these are going to be the people that will make America great again. So keep going, kids, we love you. And the other thing is, I'll just say, the next meeting of the Finance, Economic Development, Regional Affairs Committee is next Tuesday at 4:30 in the High Lobos Room, and with that, I thank you all for coming, and good night.
All right, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been an amazing evening here. Before I get started into my report, I'd be remiss if I did not acknowledge our esteemed State Representative, Mike Pelliciotti, who just entered the room. It's nice. I don't know if I've ever seen a State Representative come in so late and stay here. So I do seriously appreciate that quite a bit, Representative.
It's good theater.
Yes, exactly. That's what we've been talking about tonight. I think it's a good segue. I really sincerely appreciate John's efforts from my perspective and observation, and John doing his job and advising the mayor taking that into consultation and bringing your thoughts to us as a council. I think is really important, and certainly I appreciate that. We heard a lot of good comments tonight, statements that were made from how it impacts our youths, how it plays a role in fighting and making sure that we keep our community safe and redirecting our youth. I think it's really, I think that's really important to hear those. And, others we've heard that, famous actors have come through here. And people go on to bigger and better things because of Centerstage. And it just opens up the door to this onset of successes that we've heard tonight. And I think that's really important. And Mr. Mayor and to my colleagues, I think it's really important that we really do look deep into what were the challenges that we had 3 years ago that where we had to be faced with the conversation of, do we renew their contract or not? And how has their operations changed? And as you've heard earlier, I think it's really important to note that they've had successes. And a lot of it is, one specific area is just phenomenal. When you talk about season ticket holders that go from 50 or 60, I don't recall the number that they used, to 238, that tells me they're doing something different internally. And I don't want to get in the way of innovation. I don't want to get in the way of hard work. And it's like we've always heard, it's one of many tools in our community that plays a pivotal role in shaping our community the way it is today and the way it can be tomorrow. And so I think this is going to be a hard conversation, but I will remain open to listening. But I have to say that based on my research and what I've heard and my research, that I want to see another 3 years where it's forwarded to the council for a vote. So moving on to other things, I want to say thank you to our Safeway store director. I know that she's been very busy trying to keep her property safe and the shopping experience pleasant, but panhandling's become a huge issue. Drugs, as we've heard earlier, one of our residents saying, making a statement, drug epidemic continues to be high, and so I think the need for us to continue to look at panhandling and how do we solve that issue. And as I've said to many constituents of ours, that the law's against us in some ways, but it's not to say that there's opportunities that we can play in trying to solve take a step to solve that issue. And so there's a lot of ideas there. And again, I know that I was pleased that the Safeway store director accepted my invitation and came to our Public Safety, Parks and Human Services Committee. Their chairman, Jesse Johnson, chairs. And so it was really good to have that interaction, because I think sometimes as council members, sometimes, not all the time, we don't have that interaction here at City Hall during committee meetings. So I really just want to do a shout out. More work is to be done on that, and that I'm currently exploring as well. So salary increase, to be quite, to put it in simple terms, bad timing for such a thing to come up. Let's just be real. And so that is something I'm taking into consideration and thoughts. Although there is no action that's required of it, it is something that is very much on the mind for me. And so I want the public that's listening to hear that. And so I just wanted to put that out there. I appreciated seeing Washington County with the landlord-tenants rights. This is a huge problem. We've got to step forward, and I think the proposal that I would like us to see, I know that our committee reviewed this and has been discussing it, but I'd like us to look at phase 1 and a phase 2. Phase 1 enhances what we have on the books right now, and look at how do we make those modifications and strengthen that on the books. And then phase 2, what I'm looking for is at a point later down in the year, introduction of an actual ordinance, later in the year. So that's something that I've been kind of thinking about. I want to also put that out there to my colleagues. And so Camp Kilworth continues to be an issue of mine. That's really important. I know that I've asked the mayor to reach out to find out what's going on, what's happening, and so I'm hoping that I can get a response on that. And I do appreciate Betty Taylor's comments in terms of tiny houses. I think that's a really important issue. I know it's something that I've tried to explore, but I think it's worthy of a conversation in the Land Use and Transportation Committee, perhaps. I know that a lot of it, that in order for us to look into that, we have to look at our codes and zoning, and look at the feasibility of that too. So I appreciate her coming up with with a concern and a possible solution. So many more things to talk about, but I'll take that offline and talk to my colleagues here and there. But I thought this was a great meeting, and there's a lot of work for us to continue to be doing. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Kopang.
I wanted to thank the citizens of Federal Way that came out tonight to speak, and we heard you, and appreciate your involvement. And I am going to let someone else in the council speak. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Tran.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight and share with us your thought about Centerstage. I also want to thank those who emailed me directly in regard to Centerstage. I read them all, and I will try to respond to each and every one of you. Last week, I was in Honolulu for a vacation, and don't share this with my wife, but I had a chance to really take a good look at their homelessness problem. I kept sneak out and walk around and, kind of talk to
working
people.
on other things.
Yes, exactly. And I have to tell you, if we think we have a big homelessness problem in this city, think again. Our problem is nothing compared to Honolulu right now. And that gave me a renewed appreciation for the work that the mayor, the council, and the task force have been doing for the people in this city. So I just want to share that with you, and I really thank you all for that.
Thank you. Your secret's safe with us, by the way.
Okay. Hopefully she's
Exactly.
not watching.
Maybe she's asleep.
Exactly. All right. Councilmember Johnson.
As my colleagues stated, just want to thank all the citizens that came out tonight, including the rental inspection program folks, the Centerstage folks. I think we have as we all know, we have a difficult yet crucial path ahead in terms of our budget. But I think collective impact was shown tonight in terms of when people come together and talk about issues together, we can come up with solutions. And I want to thank the staff for their presentations. Also want to thank the city staff for attending our first annual career fair last week at Todd Beamer High School. I got a chance to attend, and they did great, as well as our local businesses. We got into some emotionally charged topics tonight around policing and this Centerstage topic, and so I think as a council, we'll come together, and again, we're all here for your benefit, and so please reach out to us with any concerns or issues before it gets too far. I got an opportunity to host our first annual Rugged Genius Media Group talent show at Centerstage on Saturday, and it was great to see the youth out. It was a packed house, and I think that was a first step with Centerstage in terms of increasing their diversity and inclusivity in terms of youth, and so I'm really excited about the work that they're doing. Also, I had a chance to host a small meeting with youth at one of our local barbershops on Sunday, and a couple of things came out of it that I would like to share with my colleagues that don't have to do with money, which is good, but they suggested that we look into council interns in terms of policy research, and I think that's something we could look into even for free, but in terms of high school juniors and seniors looking for more experience. Also, the presentation that Ade shared with us at the last council meeting, they suggested taking it out to civics classes and having a budgeting 101 type thing in some of our high school classes. And so I think, like I said, and they actually stated it to me, the youth are powerful, so that was cool. But I think that it's important that we listen to them. And so I'm excited about, as Councilmember Duclos stated, just how engaged they are with the issues. And so I think we could benefit from that as a city. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Sefadowson.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to echo what my colleagues here have said, that tonight's meeting was, just want to thank the public for being here, for voicing how you feel about it, because this is important for our city. It is the heartbeat of our city. So to have a room full, whether or not we agree or disagree, it's just great to have that for people to be engaged for what they believe in. And so I really appreciate that. And every time this happens, I learn more about my community. I learn more about Federal Way. So the educational aspect of it is just incredible. And I just want to just take this time to encourage people to participate and to be here. And for those of you who are still here, thank you so much. Sometimes we just talk to empty chairs, so having you here is great. And so with that, I'm done. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. Today I attended Skateboard and SeaTac, and it was Federal Way's turn to bring some donuts and treats, and I purchased some donuts at Legendary Donuts. And we had several folks from around the region that didn't know that we had a donut shop here in Federal Way, and they're really great donuts, so hopefully they'll get some more business. I'm going to be attending the King County Board of Health meeting this Thursday, and for the last several months we've been talking about prohibiting smokeless tobacco in the park. And we've had, talk about children, we've had youth as young as 8 and 9 come and talk to us about what they think when they see a professional athlete chewing tobacco, and how disgusting it is, and how unhealthy it is. And so we will be voting on that. We've been talking about it for at least 3 or 4 months at this point. But once the vote's taken, and if it's a positive vote, even professional athletes will not be able to use smokeless tobacco in the sporting arenas. And I did attend the talent show at Dumas Bay on Saturday. I would like to talk about another talent show that is coming up on May 12th. It's called Fed Factor. We did this a couple years ago. It's the high school AYL kids who put it on. 2 years ago, we were at Todd Beamer. It was very successful. This year, it's going to be at Decatur High School on May 12th, which is a Saturday. And they are currently auditioning different acts for the performance. And they will have, it's a fundraiser also. Money will go to the Tacoma Humane Society, which is the humane society that we use here in Federal Way for our animals, and it will go to FedCat. So if you can come, I'll give you more information at our next meeting, but it's really exciting. We have very, very talented youth in our city, and these are high school kids that, they go out of their way to perform for us, and so it would be great for everyone to attend. And that's it. It's been a long meeting.
It has, and with that, council, great job tonight. Great, thanks for all you do for the community. Thank you to the public. We are adjourned.